It was a bright sunny day and the city was bustling with life. The protagonist wondered what was the most important thing that made up for youth. Perhaps it was genuine enthusiasm for the future, or perhaps strong friendships fill our younger years with events. Perhaps the colors in any young person's life are brought by romantic relationships. The protagonist held a stack of papers in his hands. He tapped it on the table to even them out. The protagonist was sure that all these things were illusory, and that wasn't enough for him. The guy thought that there are many incomprehensible situations between people, and in other words, it is very difficult to meet a person who could understand you. He spread the papers out on the table. The guy believed that love only made sense when the two partners had a mutual understanding of each other. The main character's name was Bai Chao. Among that stack of papers, he saw a love letter. There was a picture of a heart on it. The boy paid attention to it. The young man opened the letter and began to read it. It said that someone had invited him to come to the tennis court after school. The guy was dumbfounded by such a sudden confession, all the more so through a love letter. He didn't understand how to deal with this sudden love. For Bai Chao, it was a headache getting confessions from girls. The sender of this letter was already waiting for the guy at the appointed place to talk to him. The girl's name was Wu Yao Yao. Bai Chao accepted the girl's invitation and came to visit her at the tennis court after school. He called out to her. Wu Yao Yao turned around and got embarrassed. The girl was very surprised that the object of her affection actually came to meet her. She was very happy about it. Bai Chao, trying to smooth things over, pretended that he thought the girl was talking about the activity report. He told her to just drop it off at the student council. Wu Yao Yao got angry because the guy is pretending to be stupid again. In reality, the girl meant something else entirely. Wu Yao Yao looked at the guy angrily. She was ready to kill him if he didn't listen to the girl. The guy was really scared of her. His hands started trembling with fear. Bai Chao really thought that she was threatening him. Bai Chao awkwardly turned around. He wanted to get as far away from Wu Yao Yao as possible as soon as possible. However, the girl was quick to notice this. She wouldn't let him get away so easily. Wu Yao Yao pulled the boy by the scruff of his neck. He was about to say goodbye to his life. She pushed Bai Chao. He fell right on top of the girl. The boy was very scared. Wu Yao Yao pressed him against her chest and confessed her love for the guy. She was very embarrassed while saying this. Bai Chao didn't understand what was going on at all. Looking at the young man with loving eyes, Wu Yao Yao asked him if he would date her. Bai Chao was still lying awkwardly on the girl's legs. He didn't understand how to get out of this complicated situation. Wu Yao Yao waited for him to answer. The guy couldn't believe that this was really a confession, and he couldn't avoid it. Bai Chao didn't know what to do, because he doesn't want to fall in love yet. But he doesn't know what will happen if he says no, because the girl is the champion of the archery club. The girl kept demanding an answer from Bai Chao. She nervously shook him by the shoulders. Bai Chao didn't know what to answer. He awkwardly mumbled something. Bai Chao really wanted to escape from there. In the next moment, the guy thought that he is a strong man who has been through many battles, and he is the best when it comes to escaping. Bai Chao gathered his strength and courage, placed his hand on Wu Yao Yao's shoulder, and was ready to voice his reply as well. He started to say that he was sorry for the way things were turning out. He replied in a serious tone that the young man already had someone he liked. At that very moment, a girl with black hair nearby uttered the same phrase. The girl stood a few meters away from Bai Chao and Wu Yao Yao. They looked at her in surprise. The boys watched in amazement at this scene, which almost completely copied their situation. The guy who was confessing to the dark-haired girl thought she already had a loved one. He awkwardly apologized for the inconvenience. Wu Yao Yao didn't believe the guy. She asked if he was going to use the same excuse as that girl. The guy didn't understand how come they bumped into each other at this time. Yao Yao kept demanding an answer from the guy why he didn't want to date her. Bai Chao lowered his head and said that it was true that he was in love with one person. The girl was very surprised. The girl didn't even realize that she already liked someone. Wu Yao Yao was not upset. She was determined to ask something and approached the guy. The girl demanded Bai Chao to tell her who he loves. Otherwise, Wu Yao Yao will confess to him every day in absolutely every place the guy visits. Wu Yao Yao moved even closer. She came to look into Bai Chao's eyes. The girl once again asked who she was. Bai Chao was drenched in sweat and didn't know what to say. The guy didn't understand why the girl was doing this and didn't know what to do. Bai Chao thought that the best option would be to come up with a fake girl. And Bai Chao loudly declared that he was in love with the elder Ning Yishui. Wu Yao Yao was confused. The guy said it so confidently that their dialogue was heard by a dark-haired girl who was about to leave the tennis court. Wu Yao Yao said that if a guy liked her, it was fine. Bai Chao was amazed at the girl's reaction. Wu Yao Yao was so calm because she didn't think that she knew Bai Chao, and the two of them couldn't have a relationship. Besides, the girl was going to leave this school next year, and she was very upset by this news. Wu Yao Yao still didn't give up. She once again walked right up to Bai Chao. The guy was surprised once again. Wu Yaoyao smiled sweetly and said that even if the guy didn't like her, she would try to gradually like her in the future. The girl cheerfully turned around and waved to the young man. It was time for her to leave. She was going to pick him up in the morning tomorrow. Bai Qiao was shocked at this girl's persistence. He didn't understand what he should do next to change her mind. It was late evening, and it was getting dark outside the window. In the school, the lights were still on in one of the classrooms, and there was some outcry. Bai Qiao was sitting in the office. He was complaining about the situation with Wu Yaoyao. The guy was convinced that he had provided the perfect rejection. However, the girl didn't understand anything. It seemed to the guy that his youth was also a problem. Bai Qiao was not alone in the office. The student council president Tang Xin was with him. She was listening to the guy attentively. Bai Qiao himself was the vice president of the student council. Tang Xin slowly sat down on the desk the young man was sitting at. The girl crossed her legs and asked what Bai Qiao was doing here at this hour. The guy thought the girl was joking, since he had voluntarily stayed behind to help with student council business. In fact, it was Tang Xiang who made him stay and work late tonight on the pending student council matters. The girl smiled sweetly and fixed her hair. She brought the cup of tea to her lips and said that the guy was a very nice person. The girl licked her lips seductively and handed the guy a cup of coffee. It was his reward for working overtime today. Bai Qiao tried with all his might to refuse such a gift. He didn't need it, after all. His mother had said that drinking coffee at night was harmful. The girl pretended to be very offended by Bai Qiao's refusal in the blink of an eye. She was skillfully manipulating the guy. She proceeded to say that she was kind enough to make coffee for the vice president, and he didn't appreciate it. Tang Xiang's tricks clearly worked on Bai Qiao. He picked up a cup of coffee and said that he would definitely remember the president's kindness. The girl walked right up to the young man. She said that she was sure Bai Qiao would reciprocate. The guy doesn't quite know what she's talking about. Bai Qiao remembered seeing another love letter in the morning. It was labeled with a rose on it. However, Bai Qiao didn't know who it was sent by. Tang Xiang took Bai Qiao by the shoulders and asked him to tell her what he thought of the love letters. Bai Qiao got embarrassed and thought that she knew about Wu Yaoyao writing him a love letter. Or maybe the love letter on the table was written by her, and she realized that the guy didn't notice it. The girl was getting closer and closer to Bai Qiao. She rested her chest against his arm. The girl noticed that the vice president didn't answer her question. She wrapped her arms around the guy's neck. He blushed with embarrassment. Tang Xiang asked him in his ear what Bai Qiao thought of her love letter. Tang Xiang seductively bent over, her underwear visible. The girl noticed that the vice president didn't answer her question. The girl moved in close to Bai Qiao. He blushed. The girl asked what the guy thought of the love letter. At that moment, there was a knock on the office door. The knocker called out for President Tang Xin. Bai Qiao looked at the girl awkwardly, suggesting that she should let him go. She pretended not to realize it, and asked if he wanted the girl to hug the guy tighter. Qian Xiang clung tightly to Bai Qiao one last time, and released him from her embrace. The girl corrected the buttons on her shirt and thought that the vice president was very petty. However, this was not the end of the guy's torment. The president walked up to him again and hugged the guy tightly around his neck. Bai Qiao couldn't breathe and tried to break free. The girl remembered that there was someone knocking on the door. She allowed the person to enter. It was some guy. He opened the door and entered the office. Opening the door, the incoming disciple saw the evocative picture of Tang Xiang hugging Bai Qiao tightly. He immediately wondered what they were doing here. The student who entered the office was shocked by what he saw. He could not even say why he needed to see the president. The young man simply handed the president the letter. At this time, Bai Qiao recovered from the embrace and shouted to the guy that it wasn't what he thought, and they weren't doing anything like that in the study. Bai Qiao understood how it all looked from the outside. He wasn't sure if his disciple believed him. Tang Xian sighed and took the boy by the shoulder. She smirked, then slyly turned away from Bai Qiao. The girl said that the problem had been solved. Bai Qiao didn't even realize what problem the president was talking about. The girl held a small button behind her back, which she had cleverly and discreetly ripped off of Bai Qiao's shirt. Tang Xian sat down at her chair and said that if Bai Qiao received 25 love letters a month, he would understand her. Since the vice president is the only boy she knows well, she can hold him responsible for this. The girl smirked and thought that the vice president just couldn't receive love letters, and it was too much to ask him to understand Tang Xian's feelings. The guy awkwardly asked if she had thought about his personal safety. Tang Xian picked up her phone and started searching for something. At this time, her coffee had already cooled down, and she started to drink it. The girl smiled sweetly and was about to offer Bai Qiao her scent. The guy was shocked by this. Tang Xian looked at the time on her phone screen and thought that it was already too late. As she sipped her coffee, Tang Xian stared at the young man. The young man got goosebumps from that gaze. Bai Qiao was more than a little scared and asked what the girl was going to do now. Tang Xian gently took Bai Qiao's hand. She asked why Bai Qiao was looking at her like that, and if she was a sinner in the vice president's mind. Bai Qiao closed his eyes. He tried to see something through the gaps between his fingers. Tang Xian realized that the guy was trying to see something. She told him to close his eyes better and not to peek. Bai Qiao had a bad feeling about the whole thing. The guy tried to look again. He couldn't quell his curiosity. The girl understood. She went over and got a better grip on the guy's eyes. She threatened him that if she peeked, it might cause a real bloodstorm. Tang Xian started to gather her hair into a ponytail. She had luxurious long white hair. The girl pulled out a hair rubber band, prepared to make a ponytail. Tang Xian started to slowly remove her clothes. The first she unbuttoned her shirt and tie. The girl bare her shoulders. Bai Qiao roughly understood what was going on. Even with his eyes closed, he began to look embarrassed and blush. Next, Tang Xian slowly unzipped her school skirt. The president's skirt fell to the floor and made a distinctive falling sound. The guy heard him. He didn't understand what the president was up to or what that strange noise was. He had his back turned away from the girl. At this time, Tang Xian had already completely undressed. She was standing practically naked behind the guy's back. The girl walked up to Bai Qiao's back. She interrogated him about the strange noise. The girl took off her shoes. She asked if the vice president had expected the noise. The boy started to deny it. The girl pulled him sharply backward by the collar. Tang Xian allowed the guy to open his eyes. She leaned over to him. The guy was shocked by what he saw. The girl appeared before him in a very seductive and revealing outfit. She asked him what he thought, if the dress looked good on her. Bai Qiao blushed. He said that the girl looked beautiful, but he didn't understand why she was changing clothes in the study again. After all, there was a chance that someone would see her. Tang Xian reached her hand towards Bai Qiao's lips. The guy wasn't scared out of his wits. The girl smiled sweetly and said she was in a hurry, because she had a dinner party at home tonight, so she didn't know what to do. Tang Xian didn't actually change her clothes in the study room after all. Her dress can be folded so that it fits into her school uniform, so the girl simply took off her uniform. She started showing Bai Qiao how she did it. The guy asked her to wait. He didn't need to explain anything. Tang Xian once again stepped in close to the young man. He reminded her that the girl seemed to be in a hurry. Bai Qiao defended himself as best he could from her seductive attacks. He crossed his arms in front of his face, trying not to look at all of the girl's charms. The guy didn't understand if it was possible to be so slow. At this time, the girl was getting closer and closer to the guy's face. Tang Xian had almost forgotten about ripping the button off the guy's shirt. Tang Xiang pulled her hand towards Bai Qiao. The young man already suspected something wrong. She said the vice president is very careless, and as a student council member, it's wrong to throw your discipline and button open like that. Bai Qiao didn't even notice when his button flew off. The girl had pinned his collar with a sprig brooch. Tang Xian said that it was an extra reward from the vice president for volunteering to work overtime. The girl left and told the guy to be smart and finish the overtime. Bai Qiao was even more embarrassed by such an unexpected gift from the president. The girl was very pleased with herself. She happily hummed something to herself as she walked out of the office. She thought that she had finally gotten Bai Qiao. Tang Xiang laughed slyly. She was holding the very button behind her back that she had quietly ripped off Bai Qiao's shirt. Walking over to his desk with his letters, the guy saw the one with a rose in the middle. Bai Qiao realized that it wasn't a love letter from the president. The young man had no idea who it was from. He decided to read what it said. The letter was from Ning Yi in it. The girl invited Bai Qiao to stop by a nearby cafe after school if he had the time. Bai Qiao saw who the letter was from. In the bottom right corner, there was a small signature of the sender's name. Bai Qiao looked at the girl's name with surprise. He didn't expect that she was the author of this letter. The girl was the queen of schools. The guy didn't understand why she was writing to him. He was confused. Ning Yi sat at a coffee shop table and read a book. The girl believed in horoscopes. And if today's horoscope was to be believed, she was to have another confession. Meanwhile, the coffee shop that Ning Yi invited the guy to was quiet and cozy. The girl sat at the same table and slowly turned the pages of a book. Bai Qiao sat across from her holding a cup of coffee. The guy didn't understand what the girl's interest was. He awkwardly asked if Ning Yi was looking for him. The girl didn't take her eyes off the book. She turned the page one by one. Wu Yao Yao came to see Ning Yi today. The girl nonchalantly informed Bai Qiao. Ning Yi fixed her hair behind her ear. A visit from the young man's friend was not the most important thing right now. The girl was more interested in the fact that Bai Qiao liked her. During Wu Yao Yao's visit to Ning Yi, she explained in detail all of Bai Qiao's flaws and the reasons why they couldn't be together. The guy was so surprised that he choked on his coffee and spit it all out. The girl didn't understand why the guy was acting like this. She asked if he was okay. Bai Qiao replied that he was perfectly fine. The guy tried to justify that it wasn't what Ning Yi thought. The girl immediately understood everything. She assumed that this was just Bai Qiao's random excuse to refuse Wu Yao Yao. Bai Chao awkwardly lowered his head and thanked the girl for understanding. He was amazed by her intelligence and outstanding talents, and wondered if he had misunderstood everything because someone like her didn't want to confess to the guy. Bai Chao bowed low. He apologized for using his sympathy for Ning Yi as an excuse. The guy was willing to do anything to make the girl forgive him. Ning Yi slammed the book shut with a nonchalant look. The girl wanted to ask Bai Chao one more question. Ning Yi didn't blink an eye and asked Bai Chao if he would be her boyfriend. The boy was numb with shock. He didn't know what to say. Bai Chao thought that the girl must be joking. Ning Yi wasn't kidding, however. She didn't want to date Bai Chao for real. The young man had to pretend to be her boyfriend. Bai Chao didn't quite understand what Ning Yi meant by pretending to be her boyfriend. Ning Yi explained that it was to make Wu Yaoyao finally give up when she saw the guys dating. After all, even rejection didn't work on her. Bai Chao was surprised that the girl wanted to help him. He didn't quite understand why the girl herself couldn't reject someone. Ning Yi said that her situation was more complicated than Bai Chao's. The girl sighed heavily. She got up from the table, putting down the book she was reading. It was just a suggestion. The guy didn't have to take it. The girl told Bai Chao not to worry so much and just think about her proposal. She suggested to meet tomorrow at the same coffee shop. Ning Yi would wait for Bai Chao's reply. The girl turned around and went about her business. At this time it was morning in the city. White clouds slowly floated in the sky. The alarm clock in Bai Chao's room was continuously ringing. Bai Chao didn't hurry to turn it off, as he wanted to stay in bed longer. At that time, some girl came into his room and turned off his alarm clock. She was wearing socks with cats on them. Bai Chao was sleeping soundly in his bed at this moment. He didn't notice that someone had entered the room. The girl also had a tail. She started climbing onto Bai Chao's bed. He was sound asleep. The girl moved closer and closer to the guy's face. Bai Chao still didn't sprinkle. The girl leaned into the guy's neck. She licked slyly. At this moment, Bai Chao finally opened her eyes, was stunned by what she saw. Right in front of his face was a girl dressed in a cat costume. At that very second, the guy jumped up in fear. He didn't understand why the girl was dressed like that again and what she wanted to do. The girl was sitting right on top of the guy. The guy doesn't understand why the girl is so close to him. He went to bed without a bath last night, and he probably didn't smell good now. The girl liked the ugly panda eyes of the guy. She spread her legs and sat right on top of him. Bai Chao was very sleepy. He apologized for inconveniencing the girl. The girl said it was okay and moved closer to the guy. She hovered over him and said that Bai Chao smelled really good. The girl smiled. At this moment, Bai Chao abruptly jumped up from the bed. The girl didn't even have time to realize what had happened. Bai Chao didn't want to mess around with the girl. He went to brush his teeth. The girl clung tightly to the guy's shirt and dragged herself behind him. The boy came into the bathroom. He picked up a brush and started brushing his teeth. The boy was obviously in a bad mood. The girl hugged the guy tightly. He asked how long she was going to hang like that. The girl called the guy brother. She looked at him pitifully and told him that her little brother wouldn't even give her time to warm up. The guy was shocked, and such words from the girl, he told her not to say such misleading words. The girl was very upset by the guy's attitude. She said that Bai Chao had been very cold to her lately. After a while, a girl came out of the kitchen. She was wearing a white apron. She carried a plate in her hands while Bai Chao sat and waited meekly at the table. Bai Chao's breakfast was already ready. It had been prepared by his sister with love. The girl happily presented the food to her brother. Bai Chao had scrambled eggs for breakfast. The girl asked if Bai Chao liked her dishes. The girl was confident of her culinary abilities. She thought it was an amazing egg. The boy wanted to ask his sister something. He wondered if she was often recognized at school. The girl was embarrassed. She replied that this sometimes happens. The guy grabbed his sister's hand and zealously asked her how she used to reject her suitors and what to do if the other person doesn't fall behind even after rejection. The girl was flabbergasted. She replied, embarrassed, that she would say she already had a boyfriend, if they believed her. Then you'd show a picture of your brother. The girl snatched her hand out of Bai Chao's hand. She suggested that they should hurry up since they were already late for school. Bai Chao had to remember to wash the dishes. The guy wondered if pretending to date someone was the only way to get someone to give up. After a while, someone's long pink hair was visible from around the corner of the school. And that it was Wu Yaoyao. She stood leaning against the school. The girl was waiting for Bai Chao, but she didn't understand why he hadn't come out yet. At this time, the school door opened. The girl saw Bai Chao walking out of it. The young man was very surprised that Wu Yaoyao had actually come and was standing in a traditional archery costume. However, the girl came too soon. The guy started running away from her. Wu Yaoyao was confused. The guy thought that was the end of it. Dressed like that, she must be planning to forcefully settle the matter with a rejected confession. Wu Yaoyao shouted after the guy. She wanted him to stop. The girl didn't understand why he was running away. Her words didn't work, so she decided to choose another method. Wu Yaoyao started running after the guy with all her fury. She pushed herself off the ground, jumped high and knocked the young man to the ground in a leap, kicking him in the back. She wrapped her legs around his head and grabbed his tie to stop the guy. Bai Chao didn't realize what kind of romantic comedy his life had turned into. It was a clear, sunny day outside. The sun was shining brightly, illuminating a large stadium-like building. Wu Yaoyao persistently dragged Bai Chao to the Kyudo Association performance. The guy doesn't understand why the girl is doing this. She replied that she had spent a lot of effort to forgive him and take him on a date, and the guy was not grateful at all. Bai Chao did not understand how you date, a girl says. He noticed that he also has no lessons will be there. Wu Yaoyao was dragging the guy by his tie. They ran quickly so as not to be late. The girl saw a group of people in front of her. In the crowd of girls stood some blonde-haired guy. He was chatting nicely with his female fans. The guy noticed Wu Yaoyao. He raised his head and smiled sweetly. The guy waved at Wu Yaoyao. The girl recognized him. She was clearly not happy to see him so suddenly. Bai Chao also noticed him, and he asked who this guy was. At that moment, a brilliant thought came to the girl. A blush appeared on her cheeks. She turned around and called Bai Chao dear. Wu Yaoyao was all radiant with happiness, her eyes shining. She wanted to pretend that Bai Chao was her boyfriend. She hugged the guy's hand and said that she was very happy that he was seeing her off. Wu Yaoyao asked Bai Chao to wait for her backstage because it was so hot outside. Bai Chao didn't understand what was going on. The guy noticed that Wu Yaoyao had suddenly changed, and he felt uncomfortable, and she also started to address him strangely. He didn't understand what was causing this change in the girl. Wu Yaoyao smiled and threatened the guy with an evil look that if he didn't play along, the Kyudo circle would take him hostage and use him as a target for training. Wu Yaoyao glowed and said that she was going to go get ready, and the guy was to watch her purse. Bai Chao wished the girl a good performance and said he would wait for her with her purse backstage. This scene was seen by the blonde-haired guy. He smirked and thought that Wu Yaoyao was already interesting. He didn't believe the guy's game. The guy said goodbye to his female fans and apologized for having to leave them. The guy was going to talk to Bai Chao. The girls around him were very upset by this sudden departure of the guy. They wanted to spend more time with him. The boy approached Bai Chao and decided to meet him. He knew that he was the vice chairman of Shannel Polytechnic. The guy extended his hand to Bai Chao. The guy introduced himself. His name was Lin Gu, and he was the head of the Dudan Kyudo circle. The guy had heard of Bai Chao from Wu Yaoyao before, but he didn't think they would run into each other like this. Bai Chao awkwardly said hello. He didn't understand where this friendliness came from. Lin Gu suggested with a smile that while Bai Chao was seeing Wu Yaoyao off, she had probably caused him quite a bit of trouble. The guy volunteered to escort Wu Yaoyao after the meeting since he was the one who invited her, and so as not to overburden Bai Chao. At this moment, Bai Chao realized everything. Lin Gu was trying to cunningly manipulate the guy. He wanted something from Wu Yaoyao. Wu Yaoyao was running away from the guys at this time. She was uncomfortable from seeing Lin Gu. Lin Gu clearly didn't want Bai Chao to attend the performance. He said that time was precious, and if the guy wasn't interested in watching the performance, he should go back, and Lin Gu would explain things to Wu Yaoyao himself. Bai Chao did not like this attitude of Lin Gu. He refused to shake his hand. I said that he probably misunderstood. Bai Chao had received an invitation from the student union, and as for who would see Wu Yaoyao off, it had nothing to do with him. The boy resolutely walked past Lin Gu. Bai Chao angrily glanced back at Lin Gu. He said that it didn't apply to that one either. Bai Chao said goodbye to Lin Gu and said that he was off. Lin Gu was angered by Bai Chao's insolent attitude like this. The guy was beyond angry. He found the situation interesting, but he had nothing to worry about. He already had a plan of action in mind. Wu Yaoyao quietly watched the guy's dialogue from around the corner. She smiled sweetly and became embarrassed. She was very happy with the way Bai Chao stood up for her in front of Lin Gu. The archery performance was about to begin. The arrows were hitting the target accurately with great speed. At this time, Wu Yaoyao was practicing in the large hall. She was confidently holding a bow in her hands. Bai Chao was watching her skill while sitting on a bench. He wanted to get out of there as soon as possible. The guy was wondering when this gig would be over already. He wasn't really interested in archery. In his hands, Bai Chao held the girl's bag. It was not tightly closed. In an instant, the bag opened completely and all the contents flew to the floor. All of Wu Yaoyao's notebooks fell out. Bai Chao was confused. Bai Chao started to pick up all the fallen things. There were many books on the floor about methods to woo guys. Bai Chao was surprised at what the girl was reading. While collecting Wu Yaoyao's books, from behind the scenes, the guy heard someone talking. His interest was piqued by the conversation. That man said that the one whose name he couldn't remember was taking advantage of the fact that she had a pretty face, being important and thinking she was always right. Lin Gu was talking backstage. He asked someone to leave those thoughts, and everyone already thinks he was wrong. A girl was talking to him. She didn't understand how this could be left like this and need to teach this most harmful girl a lesson. She shouldn't hold back. There were 3 girls around Lin Guo, one of whom thought that it wasn't nothing, as the guy had only been slapped in vain. Bai Chao was watching their dialogue intently. Lin Guo skillfully manipulated the female fans. He said that it wasn't a big deal and he didn't want the girls to look for trouble on their heads because of him. The girls kept up with him. One of them said to let that very one know that you can't be so brazen with Lin's head. Bai Chao recognized this guy. At this moment, Wu Yaoyao caught Bai Chao eavesdropping on Lin Guo. She asked what the guy was doing here. He whispered back that he was overhearing gossip. The boy asked the girl to keep her voice down. Wu Yaoyao replied that it was very suspicious. She asked if Bai Chao was peeping at the girls. He replied that he wasn't, and that he had already seen enough girls today to make his eyes water. Wu Yaoyao said that it was fine. She forcefully sat the boys down on the bench. That one was surprised. She confidently stated that Bai Chao would only look at her afterward. The guy said he understood. He was surprised by the girl's insistence. She plopped down on the bench next to the guy and said that given that he had acted very brave today and even played along with her, she would do something for him. Wu Yaoyao smiled slyly and was about to reward Bai Chao by having him help the pretty girl put on her socks. If he did that, he could go home. Wu Yaoyao gave her foot to the guy and placed it on Bai Chao's knee. The guy didn't know what to do. He grimaced. The girl was surprised by this reaction of the guy. She stated that her feet were clean and besides, he was not even interested in what he was being rewarded for. Bai Chao coughed. He embarrassedly said that he thought Wu Yaoyao had misunderstood everything. The boy was about to say that he didn't like it at all, but at that moment a sharp arrow was presented to his face. The guy was drenched in sweat from fear. Right in front of his face stood Wu Yaoyao with an enraged look, holding a bow and arrow. She declared that the guy was enjoying it after all. Bai Chao didn't take long to grab Wu Yaoyao's white socks and decided to please the girl after all, as he was scared for his life. He sat down on his knees in front of Wu Yaoyao, holding her socks in his hands. The guy had a depressed look. He obviously didn't want to do this. He began to slowly put the socks on Wu Yaoyao's feet. The girl was beyond happy. The guy didn't like the whole situation at all. The guy replied that putting socks on a beautiful girl is indeed a huge honor for him. Wu Yaoyao thought it was good that the guy understood that. The girl rested her head on Bai Chao's shoulder. She wanted to really thank the guy for seeing her off today. Bai Chao noticed that the girl seemed to be well acquainted with Lin Gu. He wanted to find out what was going on between them. Wu Yaoyao was confused and looked at Bai Chao with surprise. The girl thought that Bai Chao was jealous of her. She was unspeakably happy about this fact, and animatedly reached out to him. Yesterday, Lin Gu at the archery competition approached Wu Yaoyao when she was alone, and asked why she was still here since it was so late. Lin Gu was a Kyudo club member from another school. The girl had never interacted with him much, so such gestures were strange to her. Lin Gu pulled his hand towards Wu Yaoyao when the performance was announced. The girl didn't understand what the guy wanted. The girl dropped her bow on the ground due to surprise. Lin Gu started pestering Wu Yaoyao. He pinned the girl against the wall and grabbed her hand. Lin Gu asked if she stayed behind to wait for him. The guy clearly had an interest in the girl. So Wu Yaoyao slapped him. She didn't know what he had said to the others anymore. But today at the performance, many people were unhappy with the girl's presence. Bai Chao kept listening to Wu Yaoyao's story. He realized that everyone was discussing the girl behind her back. Bai Chao wanted to suggest something to help his friend. He looked at Wu Yaoyao, who was lying on his shoulder in surprise. The girl sweetly leaned on him, closed her eyes, and fell asleep while lying on top of Bai Chao. Bai Chao thought that she wasn't truly asleep, but was just pretending to be asleep. He gently took her head in his hands. The girl still didn't wake up. Bai Chao wanted to make sure she was asleep. He carefully looked at her face. The girl blushed with embarrassment. Wu Yaoyao thought that Bai Chao was going to kiss her since their faces blah very close to each other. At that moment, the guy placed the girl's head on her bag. Yaoyao was shocked. She had expected something different. The boy was about to slip away quietly, but the girl shouted after him to wait. He realized she wasn't asleep. She was violently clamping him against the wall with her leg. The boy was frightened by this pressure. Wu Yaoyao was extremely pissed off that the guy didn't understand the hints of the all-conscious girl. She stated that Bai Chao knew absolutely nothing about girls' hearts, and if he noticed a girl sleeping sweetly, shouldn't he gently take her in his arms and carry her home? The guy was uncomfortable and asked if this was another story from a women's magazine. Wu Yaoyao realized that the guy had seen all of her women's magazines that had fallen out of her purse. The girl immediately felt embarrassed. She called Bai Chao a fool. Tears came to her eyes. The girl was furious for treating her like this. She turned around abruptly and zealously got ready to go home to change her clothes. She told Bai Chao to go back to school alone. The boy smirked. He was amused by the girl's reaction. On the way home, the guy reflects on the fact that even though Lingu cheated those 3 girls, it's Bai Chao who is ashamed of him. The guy thought that he should prevent what these 3 were planning to do to Wu Yao Yao. However, he was constantly haunted by the feeling that something was wrong. At this second, the guy realized everything. He stopped abruptly and remembered that when they met, Lingu had acted so that the guy would leave early. And then Lingu, he can't let these girls loose. And there's no telling what they'll do to Wu Yao Yao. Bai Chao had to help his friend. Those 3 girls cheekily approached Wu Yao Yao and asked if she knew what was going on. The girl had no idea what they were talking about. Yao Yao was asked what the 3 of them were up to. The girl didn't know the 3 girls. At that moment, suddenly, one of the girls slapped Wu Yao Yao with all her might. She said this slap for Headlin. The girl was very angry. Wu Yao Yao realized that these girls were Lingu's fans. She replied that trash likes to gather in a pile. The girl was very angry that Wu Yao Yao called her trash. She grabbed the girl by the collar and started shaking her in a frenzy, trying to teach her a lesson. Wu Yao Yao replied in a calm tone that of course these girls in Lingu were just a bunch of trash. The girl was furious. She swung at Wu Yao Yao again and told her to shut her mouth. The girl didn't have time to hit Wu Yao Yao. Someone grabbed her by the arm and interrupted their showdown. It was Bai Chao. He had come to Wu Yao Yao's rescue just in time. He asked the girls if they liked being manipulated. The guy was talking about Lingu's manipulation. The girl abruptly pulled out her hand and slapped Bai Chao. She and Lingu were bound by love in her opinion. Bai Chao shouldn't care about that. The boy glared angrily at the girl. He had a slap mark on his cheek. The girl tensed up and asked why the guy was staring at her like that. She was scared. Bai Chao was approached by Wu Yao Yao. She excitedly took his hand and said that the guy had nothing to do with it. She was scared and thought that Bai Chao should leave this place. The girl tried to protect the guy. The guy suddenly hugged Wu Yao Yao's waist. He didn't dish the girl. Bai Chao easily lifted the girl up and took her in his arms. Bai Chao motioned for the girl to leave together. Wu Yao Yao was happy because of such a noble gesture from a guy. She fell in love with him even more. Wu Yao Yao clung to the guy's chest. Tears flowed from her eyes. She agreed to leave together. This girl called out to the guys and asked about payback, if they thought they could just walk away. Bai Chao was already fed up with this situation and all this squabbling. He sighed heavily as he held the girl in his arms. The guy told Lin Guo to come out after all. Things were already bad enough. But if he found the guy himself, it would be even worse. Bai Chao was right. Lin Guo was indeed observing this entire situation nearby. Lin Guo started to justify himself. He said that he wasn't the one who started it all and the young man was just passing by. At this moment, Lin Guo received a blow from his fist with all his might. He was terrified. At this moment, Bai Chao hit the guy with such force that he flew far away. The shocked girls were watching. Lin Guo was surprised. Such decisive action from Bai Chao, a fist mark was left on his face. Bai Chao said, returning his slap. Lin Guo sat on the ground in surprise. Bai Chao threatened that if such a situation happened again, everyone would know about his actions, because the guy had a recording of Lin Guo hitting on Wu Yao Yao. He told Lin Guo to think about his actions. Lin Guo realized all his mistakes. He started crying and says there will be no next time, and he understood everything. Lin Guo bowed low to Bai Chao and Wu Yao Yao as the boys left the scene. The girls were confused. They didn't understand what this all meant and why their senior was so embarrassed. The girls realized that Lin Guo is a loser who doesn't deserve their love. They were disappointed in the guy. At this time, Wu Yao Yao was walking with Bai Chao. She was flattered by the guy's actions. The boys came to the shore of the lake. Bai Chao sat down and looked thoughtfully at the water. Wu Yao Yao brought the guy a soda can and leaned it against Bai Chao's neck. The guy asked what it was. In the jar was an ice colau. The girl told Bai Chao to put it on her face. That way the beatings would come off faster. It would be hard for him to explain if someone saw Bai Chao with a bruise on his face. Wu Yao Yao asked how the guy knew what those girls and Lingu were up to. Bai Chao opened a can of Coke and said that Lingu had originally turned them against Wu Yao Yao by making a pathetic appearance. And then Lingu wanted to pretend to be a hero who saved the beautiful girl. It was like a typical manhwa story. Wu Yao Yao moved closer to the guy. She noticed that he was smart since he understood Lingu's plan so quickly. She asked if that meant that Bai Chao had decided to take a different scenario to save the beauty. The girl smiled sweetly. Bai Chao also moved closer to the girl. She didn't expect it, and tensed up. The guy asked if he really saved the pretty girl. The girl jumped away from him and asked what the guy meant. At this moment, Wu Yao Yao thought of something. Bai Chao was already wary because of what she was going to suggest. Wu Yao Yao said that since the guy was now her hero, Bai Chao would be responsible for her. The guy was the hero the girl was going to follow. Bai Chao had already come home after the competition. The guy started washing dishes in his kitchen. Bai Chao was wiping the plates when he suddenly heard a notification pop up on his phone. The guy got a message from Wu Yao Yao asking why the guy ran away after lunch. Bai Chao remembered how he and ran with all his legs from Wu Yao Yao, who was frantically catching up with him. Bai Chao read the message and thought that this was a very embarrassing situation, and if he didn't escape, he would have died on the spot. At this time, from behind his back, someone angrily peeked out. Bai Chao was approached by his sister from behind. She looked at his phone and asked if the guy was chatting with a bad girl. The girl pouted. The guy quickly put his phone away and tried to justify that it was an advertisement message from the store. The guy bounced off his sister. The girl didn't believe him. She had just gotten out of the shower wearing only a single towel. Bai Chao's tone made her doubtful. A message came to the guy's phone again. He thought that this was obviously not a good time for texting. His sister was staring at him intently. Bai Chao was frightened by her insistent gaze. The girl asked why her brother was so nervous, if he had any problems. The boy said that he had no problems, but his sister did not believe him, and demanded to see his phone. The girl fell Bai Chao forcefully on the floor, pinning his head against the parquet. She took his phone from his hands and wanted to check who the guy was communicating with. There was a password on Bai Chao's phone. The girl tried to guess it. She thought it was her birthday, however it turned out not to be. Sister Bai Chao got upset and thought that the guy was really a fool, and she should be taught a lesson. The girl looked at the guy intently. The sister let Bai Chao go and said that he had actually received a promotional notice from an online store. However, the girl was up to something. She had a sly smile and wanted to teach her brother a lesson. The girl said that Bai Chao's phone would stay with her for now. She wanted to hide the phone under her towel. She slowly placed it on her chest. The phone, however, fell through the towel. It fell sharply to the floor. The boys looked with surprise at the fallen phone. They were worried that it would not break. The girl pouted and took offense at the guy. Her name was Lulu. Bai Chao tried to smooth things over. He suggested that she do something else she wanted to do. Lulu was happy in a flash. She asked again if the boys could do what she wanted. The guy was already thinking it was a bad idea to give her such leeway, but he still agreed. Bai Chao was overcome with a strange uneasiness. Lulu put Bai Chao's head on her lap and was about to do something. The guy wondered if they were definitely siblings, and how the girl got such a strange hobby. The girl reminded that her brother had said they could do whatever she wanted. Lulu slowly turned the boy's head toward her. The girl was going to clean his ears, as it gives her a lot of positive emotions. She wondered if such a relaxing hobby could be weird. Lulu pulled out her ear-cleaning tools. She started cleaning the guy's ears. She also cleaned the inside of her ears. The girl did everything with great pleasure. Lulu leaned down to the guy's ear and blew all the dirt off of him. Bai Chao became embarrassed. Bai Chao had a not-so-pleasant feeling due to the ear cleaning. He turned comfortably on his side and looked at his sister, who was right in front of his eyes. Her towel opened a little. The guy looked at her in surprise. The girl looked very seductive. Her underwear was visible and the towel opened up even more, exposing her young body. The boy embarrassedly got up from the girl's lap. He asked her to wait. He felt embarrassed. Lulu asked what was wrong again. Bai Chao said he wanted to turn his back on her because he was going to send a message to a naughty girl, and if his sister Yandere saw it, she would get angry. The girl was angry and rubbed the guy's cheek. She told him not to mock her, and since he was on the phone, to sit silently. Bai Chao was in pain. The guy picked up his phone and started reading the many messages that had accumulated over time. Wu Yao Yao wrote to him, asking why he didn't reply to his girlfriend's messages. Also, the guy got a message from the president of the student council. She called the guy dear and asked how he was doing. Bai Chao sighed and thought that the environment in his campus was scary. A boy didn't want to go to school tomorrow and asked his sister if he could not go. The girl remembered that tomorrow was Saturday and he should not go. She leaned into Bai Chao's ear and asked if he had forgotten that tomorrow was Saturday. They had plans for that day. Lulu adopted a frightened look and asked if her brother had forgotten that he was going to go see her performance tomorrow. Bai Chao remembered that tomorrow was the city's teenage dance competition. He assured his sister that he would definitely go to see her. The guy started making excuses, that even though he had forgotten that tomorrow was Saturday, he still felt that there was some important business to attend to tomorrow, and so he was looking for an excuse not to go to campus. Lulu didn't believe him. She looked intimidating and asked if he was definitely coming. The guy was willing to do anything to keep his sister from killing him. He said he would definitely come to the girl's performance. The girl got excited and said that was enough for today. She went to bed. Tomorrow night they were to meet at the theater. Bai Chao picked up his phone. He finally had a chance to answer the messages from the president of the studio council. Tang Xian asked Bai Chao how the guy was doing. The girl had already noticed the guy read, however he must have been busy with something, or his phone sat down that he didn't answer her. The guy replied to the girl that she must be joking and asked if she had any business with him. The girl answered him that tomorrow was Saturday and she had some plans for that day. Bai Chao replied that Tang Xian must be tired from work, so she should get a good rest. The guy was going to go to bed. They would see the president on Monday. The girl thanked Bai Chao for caring. In order to thank the guy, she would go to his house tomorrow morning and have fun with him. She added a heart emoji at the end of the message. The guy didn't expect such a move from Tang Xian. Tomorrow morning was in no way suitable for their meeting. If Bai Lu sees the chairwoman coming to see him in the morning, the guy will probably be dead. The next day came. The weather outside was beautifully warm. Bai Chao got a message from Lulu. She was already at the theater and was going to the dress rehearsal. She reminded him that a guy was supposed to come to her performance tonight. Guy managed to send his sister to the theater beforehand, and he rushed to the library beforehand to avoid danger and save himself from a horrible massacre with Lulu. The guy did everything not to meet the chairwoman. He was very proud of himself because he is a great strategist. At that moment, someone behind me asked if the guy was going to have coffee. Bai Chao smiled, and after thanking him for the coffee, he took the cup in his hands and started to enjoy the drink. At that moment, he realized that he was weirded out by the fact that someone had offered him coffee. There was no way he was expecting that. The guy experienced the familiar feeling of someone resting their chest against his back. The girl said hello. Right behind him was Tang Xian. The guy was very surprised to see the girl as he had done everything to avoid meeting her today. In the establishment where the boys were sitting on the stove cooking delicious food, the smells enveloped the whole place, whetting the appetite in the visitors. Bai Chao and Tang Xian sat silently at the far table waiting for their breakfast. The guys finally got their treats, and there was still silence at the table. The boy finally decided to ask the girl a question. Bai Chao immediately began to nervously devour his food. He was uncomfortable with the chairwoman's gaze. The guy asked the chairwoman how she knew he was hiding in the library. The girl stared intently at the boy. Tang Xian was wearing a very revealing outfit. She took out her food from the bag and held it in her hand. The girl blushed and brought the sweetness to her mouth. She asked if Bai Chao knew why the hair was so easily trapped. She shook the crumbs off her mouth and smiled sweetly. Everyone around her took notice of her and thought she was very beautiful. Bai Chao tried not to even look at the girl. He set his food down so that it couldn't be seen. He asked why. The chairwoman smiled and was ready to give him an answer. The girl took Bai Chao's hand and replied, "Because he's a hair coward." The boy didn't quite know what she was talking about. Tang Xian was clearly talking about Bai Chao himself, she continued. It only cost the hunter the slightest sound, so the hare would immediately run in fear in the other direction. She moved seductively towards the young man. At the same time, a clever hunter need only learn the hare's habits to set a trap. The boy was trembling equal sign with fear. And in that case, the Zayats would fall into the trap of their own free will. The girl approached Bai Chao and wiped the mugs from his lips. She asked if what she said was true. Tang Xian smiled sweetly and started humming something about a little bunny, associating it with Bai Chao. It finally came to the guy's attention that the bunny was actually him. The boy got scared and asked why the girl hadn't found a boyfriend yet, since she was so smart. The traitorous girl thought about the question. She started to answer the guy. The girl winked at Bai Chao and replied that if she fell in love, no one would get away from her anymore. The guy was shocked. He didn't understand where this white fox had learned such things, and why she was smiling when she was telling him all this. Bai Chao tried to change the subject. He got embarrassed and asked why Tang Xian was looking for him. The girl smiled and said that she wanted to see her boyfriend. Bai Chao thought that wasn't the only reason. The girl hesitated and said she also wanted to go on a blind date. The guy jumped up from the table. He tried to find an excuse, saying he wasn't feeling well today, so he said goodbye to the girl. The moment the guy was about to leave, Tang Xian kicked up the young man's leg with her foot so that he lost his balance. The guy started to fall. He held out his arms for someone to help him, trying to stay on his feet. The chairman grabbed Bai Chao's hand. She held the young man tightly. The girl blushed and asked if the deputy wanted to take her hand. She pretended to be nice and not guilty. She asked if Bai Chao really wanted her to scream. The girl smiled sweetly. Hearing this, Bai Chao sat back down. Apparently he was not allowed to leave the library without the girl's permission. He thought someone else was going to scream now, the guy himself. The girl clamped his leg between her legs and hummed something to herself. Qianxiang slowly ran her foot along his ankle, lifting his pant leg. The girl called Bai Chao expensive. She smiled seductively and continued to address Bai Chao. The girl reached her hand toward the guy's face, wanting to touch him. She grabbed Bai Chao's hair ears with a sharp swipe of her hand and asked if he really wanted it. The guy was drenched in sweat from fear. He apologized to the chairwoman and said he was already feeling better. After a while, the boys were about to leave the library. Tang Xian, sitting back down on the chair, said that the guy just needs to meet one person and that's it. She replied that she shouldn't be so nervous. Everything would go smoothly. The girl made herself comfortable in the chair. The guy asked if she knew how many guys at school wanted to skin him when the girl used him as an excuse. Bai Chao didn't want to go to certain death. Tang Xian smiled slyly. She had a plan to solve this situation and change the guy's mind. The girl pulled something out of her dress. She was going to offer it to whoever went to meet her today. Bai Chao's eyes lit up. He really wanted to get it. The guy looked at the thing carefully. He knew immediately what it was. In her hands, Tang Xian held a game disc. Signal Fire 4, re-release. The guy ran towards it in a flash. Bai Chao grabbed the disc in his hands. The game's release is officially only due in 3 months. The guy didn't understand how the girl got him. The chairwoman knew the guy loved the game. She interrogated what the guy thought about her suggestion now. Bai Chao obediently bowed and replied that he would go with the girl wherever she wanted to go. Tang Xian had gotten her way. She was overjoyed at her success. The guys walked out of the library. Bai Chao asked the chairwoman to tell him about this horrible person. He needed to know what to prepare for. The girl fixed her hat thoughtfully. She was going to tell the boy a story about this man. This guy's family has returned from abroad and is on the list of the world's top 500 entrepreneurs and runs a family business with Tan Xian's family. At the last banquet, their parents hinted that they should get to know each other better. It had happened before that the young people's parents had tried to set them up, but now Tang Xian should definitely refuse him. Bai Chao asked why the girl shouldn't take a closer look at this guy, because then she would stop bullying him all day long. The girl pressed her breasts against Bai Chao and replied that it wouldn't happen, because she hadn't played with the guy yet and he was so interesting. The girl put her hat on Bai Chao. He was embarrassed and thought that the chairman always said very strange things. At this moment, some person approached them. He called out to Tang Xian while she hugged Bai Chao. The man said that he didn't expect to meet a girl like this. Tanya Xian gave a surprised look at the man who approached. At this time, Bai Chao's face was between the girl's breasts. The guy was very embarrassed and held the girl's hat in his hands. The person who approached the guys was Ning Yi. The girl didn't expect to meet the guys here. She fixed her hair behind her ear. Bai Chao tried to break free from Tang Xiang's embrace. He pushed her and asked her what Ning Yi was doing here. The girl replied that she was just passing by. Ning Yi remembered that she forgot to hand Bai Chao something. The girl was holding 2 coffee coupons in her hand. She asked Bai Chao to take a look at the expiration date of the discount coupon and remember to exchange it. Ning Yi said she wouldn't distract the guys from their date. She waved to the guy, turned around and left. Bai Chao remembered that Ning Yi said that she would wait for the guy's answer the day after tomorrow at the same time, as to whether he would agree to pretend to be her boyfriend. Bai Chao was drenched in sweat. He realized that she would be waiting for his response. The guy had fallen into a very awkward position. At this point, the guy remembers that today he also has to attend his sister's dance competition this afternoon. Bai Chao was terrified at having so many things to do in one day. He didn't understand how to manage everything without upsetting any of the girls. The guy looked at his watch and thought he should exchange the coupon for a coffee. He was surprised that he, a man hiding in the drags, turned out to have such a good relationship with a desirable beauty. Bai Chao stared intently at Tang Xian. The girl didn't understand what the latter wanted to do. Bai Chao didn't have much time for everything. He grabbed the girl's hand and dragged her on a blind date. Tang Xian didn't understand why the guy was in such a hurry. It wasn't easy for her to run in heels. The guys went on a blind date to Tang Xian's suitor. The guy was already waiting for her at the restaurant. He smiled when he saw the girl. The next moment, he saw Bai Chao standing behind the girl. The guy asked who she brought. Yano was not fazed by the uninvited guest. Tang Xian was out of breath from running so fast, she still couldn't catch her breath. She felt like Bai Chao was a fool. The girl was so tired that she had already forgotten the point of the case. Sweat dripped down her face. The girl grabbed the guy's arm. She pinched him, meaning he should pretend. The girl introduced Bai Chao. She said that he was the deputy of their student union, and they had met by chance on the street and decided to have a free meal. Bai Chao awkwardly said hello. Chen Yun, the name of the girl's boyfriend, was clearly unhappy with the situation. He wanted to spend the evening alone with the girl. The guy frowned. The guy calmed his emotions and said that Tang Xian's friends were his friends, and he certainly didn't mind. The young man motioned for the guys to sit down. He thought that Bai Chao was a freeloader, and also dared to hold the girl's hand. He would obviously seem perfect against his background. Tang Xian nervously rubbed her dress. She thought that Bai Chao really is a fool. Obviously, he went with the girl to cover himself with her as a shield. Tang Xian didn't know what to do. She was adjusting the laces on her sandals. The girl was annoyed that Bai Chao now didn't mind socializing with her rival. At this time, the guys were sweetly discussing something over their food. Seeing this, Tang Xian called out to Bai Chao. She took a piece of meat with her chopsticks. The girl moved close to the guy and put a piece of meat in his plate. She told him to stop talking. He'd better eat. After all, there were other things waiting for the guys after lunch. The girl smiled slyly, pressing her breasts against Bai Chao's arm. The boy agreed. Chen Yun was annoyed as he watched the guys chatting sweetly. He wasn't happy that the girl had moved so close to the guy. After all, it was his date. Chen Yun was convinced that Bai Chao was not worthy of Tang Xian. The guy was jealous. He put his hand in his pocket. Chen Yun got up from the table, walked over to Bai Chao, and put his hand on his shoulder. The guy didn't know Bai Chao very well yet, so he offered him a drink and chatted some more. In his pocket, Chen Yun held his wallet. He said that this restaurant served a very delicious dessert wine, and they should definitely try it. Bai Chao felt embarrassed. He didn't really know how to drink alcoholic beverages. Chen Yun said that it was fine, and the guy would just give it a try. Hearing this, Tang Xiang had a brilliant thought. She thought that she should drink some wine, and after that, pretend to be drunk to seduce Bai Chao. The girl imagined falling into Bai Chao's arms and saying that she was drunk. At this time, Chen Yun would look at the guys with envy. He was very angry at how much attention Bai Chao's girlfriend was paying. Tang Xian thought this would solve all her problems, and she would have a lot of fun watching her suitor get angry. Tang Xian perked up and said that it was a great idea. Good wine shouldn't be missed. The girl was willing to drink with the guys. Bai Chao was surprised that they would really drink. Tang Xiang had never seen Bai Chao drunk. The guy replied that he could only drink a little. At this time, Chen Yun had a sly smirk. Everything was going according to his plan. The guys ordered the best red wine in the restaurant. They were about to have a drink and clinked glasses. Tang Yang was going to drink some wine and immediately pretend to be drunk to realize her plan. She brought the glass to her lips. At that moment, the girl saw something wrong, heard some strange sound near her. The culprit of this was Bai Chao. The guy was already drunk. He fell his head on the table and practically passed out. Everything was going according to Chen Yun's plan. He was probably going to get Bai Chao drunk. The guy smiled slyly. He pretended to regret offering the guy a drink. He was going to go pay the bill and send the guy home afterward. And he and Tang Xian would get some privacy elsewhere. The girl hugged Bai Chao and told Chen Yun not to say that, because she wasn't in the mood to talk to him before. At this time, Bai Chao was sleeping on the girl's chest. Chen Yun went to pay the bill. Bai Chao and Tang Xian remained seated at the table. At this moment, Bai Chao woke up and mumbled something. He pulled the girl tighter against him, resting his face against her breasts. The guy thought she smelled delicious. Tang Xian became uncomfortable. She patted the guy's back, trying to bring him to his senses. The guy asked if the girl could stand up by herself. Bai Chao tried to get up from the table. His knees were wobbling. He couldn't stand on his feet. Looks like the guy was so drunk that he couldn't keep himself on his feet. At this moment, he condemned downward. Tang Xiang became very worried. The girl scooped the boy up under her arm, saving the young man from falling. She held Bai Chao so that he wouldn't fall. The girl smiled sweetly. Bai Chao was drunk. His face flushed red. He still couldn't stand on his feet. The guy was desperately trying to get up. The girl saw something appear from Bai Chao's pocket. It was Chen Yun's wallet. It fell to the floor from Bai Chao's pocket. At this moment, the guy asked if anyone had seen his wallet. Tang Xiang thought that something was amiss here, and apparently Chen Yun had planted Bai Chao's wallet. Chen Yun noticed his wallet lying on the floor near Bai Chao. He kept wondering why he couldn't find it. The boy bent down and picked up the missing item. Chen Yun pretended that he thought Bai Chao had stolen the wallet. He blamed it on the guy. That was his plan. Chen Yun threw the wallet on the table and said that stealing was a crime, and they should obey the laws. The guy was very pleased with himself, as everything was going according to plan. Bai Chao was so drunk that he didn't realize what was going on. He unintelligibly asked if someone's wallet had been stolen. The guy was lying on the table at the time. The guy got up from the table. He told Chen Yun to look for his wallet for now, and he would pay for everything. Bai Chao reached his hand into his pocket. Chen Yun obviously didn't want that from the guy. He smirked and took out his phone. The guy was going to call the police, since Bai Chao was making a fool of himself, and they would take care of it. Tang Xian took a glass of wine in her hands. She brought it to her lips and said that it was enough to play out a show here. If Chen Yun continued to play comedy here, the girl would commit a real crime. She was serious. Chen Yun smirked and pretended not to understand what the girl was talking about. The guy was sure that Tang Yang had seen the wallet fall out of Bai Chao's pocket. He thought that the girl was not suited for guys of this sort. Chen Yun said that the girl shouldn't defend him, because he had seen many guys with such a mindset before. At this moment, Tang Xian abruptly splashed wine on the guy's face. He was stunned. The girl asked if the guy had now come to his senses, if his play was over. Chen Yun was furious. The girl put her foot on the table and proudly asked who Chen Yun thought he was. Tang Xian didn't care about his nastiness and his words towards the girl's family, as long as he stayed out of her life. The guy didn't expect such words from the girl. She stated that if Chen Yun spoiled Bai Chao's future, she would not tolerate it. The girl was glad that she had figured out Chen Yun's cunning plans earlier. Otherwise, there would be one more concrete pillar under the bridge tomorrow. Chen Yun realized that it was best not to mess with Tang Xian. He sat all drenched with an angry look across from the girl. Tang Xian placed the empty glass on the table against Chen Yun. He was humiliated. The girl walked over to Bai Chao. He still hadn't come to his senses and over drinks. The girl hugged him out of the pitying look she gave the guy. Tang Xian felt guilty. She thought that the guy almost got raided by the police because of her. She took Bai Qiao under her arm. The guys headed towards the exit of the restaurant. Tang Xian took the guy outside. She decided to sit down on a bench. Bai Qiao was lying on her lap. The girl was fanning him to bring him to his senses. Bai Qiao finally came to his senses. He still didn't feel very good. He asked what time it was. Tang Xian replied that it was 4 o'clock in the morning. When the guy opened his eyes, he saw that right above him was the girl's breasts. The guy jumped up. He was late for his sister's performance. The guy couldn't imagine how upset Lulu would be. Tang Xian hit Bai Qiao on the head with a fan, calling him a fool and telling him that she had tricked the guy. It wasn't too late. The girl was surprised that the guy believed everything he was told, and no wonder he was almost framed by Chen Yu. Bai Qiao didn't understand what the girl was talking about. No one had ever smiled like that before when talking to Chen Yu like Bai Qiao. Tang Xian advised to never believe anyone who wears masks and smiles, as it could end badly for the guy. The guy shouldn't have believed Tang Xian either, as she often pretended to be. The boy was embarrassed and turned away. Bai Qiao thanked the girl for her help. He was embarrassed that she had helped him. The girl abruptly pressed Bai Qiao's head with her chest against her knees. She had a good idea. The girl felt that as a thank you, Bai Qiao should give herself to her. She smiled sweetly. The guy was shocked at such a suggestion from Tang Xian. He clearly wasn't ready for this. Bai Qiao jumped up abruptly, saying that he might be late and needed to be at his sister's performance. The boy rushed away from the girl in a flash. The girl sat dumbfounded by such a quick change in the young man's mood. Tang Xian caught up with him, grabbed his hand, and offered to take the subway together. Bai Qiao said that he only had one ticket for his sister's performance, and there was no way the girl could go with him. At this moment, Tang Xian pulled out 2 more tickets for the VIP seats from behind her back. Sasha had the most ordinary ticket. The guy was very surprised. He asked where the girl got the tickets from. She said it was for her and Bai Qiao's next goal, and the tickets were given to her by her father. Tang Xian knows that Bai Qiao's sister does ballet, so she thought the guy would be interested in it, and it just so happened that she would be there performing. The guy doubted the sincerity of the girl's words. It was clearly not just a coincidence. She had thought of everything. The girl asked the guy if he would agree to go with her. Bai Qiao agreed, but he wanted to ask something. The guy inquired why holding him by the waist. Tang Xian was doing it because the guy was drunk. He replied that he had already sobered up. The girl moved closer and closer to him. She said that's what all drunk people say. After a while, the guys had to stop. Tang Xian untied the ribbons on her shoes. The girl's feet were tired. Her shoes had heels and were not very comfortable to walk in. She started to take them off. As soon as Tang Xian took off her shoes, she immediately felt much better. The girl continued walking barefoot. Bai Qiao stared intently at Tang Xian's bare legs. She seductively asked where the man was looking and if Sasha had any secrets of infatuation. The boys reached the theater. The ballet groups were already performing on the stage. Beautiful music echoed throughout the concert hall. Slender girls gracefully danced ballet on stage. Tang Xian sat sadly on one of the chairs in the hall. She was wearing men's shoes. She hoped that she would find out about the deputy's secret hobbies. The girl didn't expect Bai Qiao to be so worried about her bare feet at all. He suggested that Tang Xian put on his shoes. The girl looked intently at the boy and blushed. She thought that he was a fool. At this time, Bai Qiao was tensely watching the performance. Tang Xian poked his cheek with her finger and said, "Don't be so nervous after all. It was his sister on the stage, not himself." Bai Qiao saw something on the stage. He grabbed Tang Xian's hand. The girl blushed. Bai Qiao jumped up from his chair and pointed at his sister. She was at the very center of the stage. The guy noticed something. The guy noticed that her dress was cracking at the seams. Bai Qiao was horrified. A second later, the lacing on her dress burst at the most inopportune moment. Lulu was surprised. The performance was stopped. The girls didn't understand what was wrong or what had happened. Bai Lu sat right in the middle of the stage with her arms covered. Bai Qiao thought that this was a real disaster. He grabbed his head. At this time, from backstage, someone was slyly peering at the stage and watching the girl's failure. Apparently, this girl was the culprit behind the unexpected costume breakage. She grinned and laughed. It was time to announce the winners of the competition. The dancers were already in the locker room. Bai Lu took off her white tights. The first place winner was the ballet group Ladies' Fingers from Qixia District. Lulu was very sad to hear this. These girls were rewarded with the brightest applause. She looked at her 4th place diploma. The girl was in a depressed state, about to burst into tears. She really wanted to win this contest. And at that moment, she saw Bai Qiao walk into her locker room. The guy asked if his sister was okay. The girl was clearly not well. She burst into tears when she saw her brother. Bai Lu threw herself into Bai Qiao's arms. He excitedly asked why she was sitting here alone. The girl cried and said that all her efforts were for naught. Bai Chao tried her best to support her. Bai Chao hugged his sister. At this time, someone stroked her head. It was Tang Xian. She said that the girl was on top of her game, and all the questions were only about the costume, and if she won first place, everyone would only be happy. She was worried that Bai Chao was now worried. The boy was surprised to see Tang Xian appear in the locker room. Bai Lu abruptly pulled her brother away from the girl. Tang Xian called her sister and said that she came to see her performance. The girl demanded to stop calling her sister. Tang Xian said she was the deputy's sister, so she was hers too. The girls all continued to argue with each other. At this time, Bai Chao remembered their first meeting. Back then, Bai Lu had almost attacked Tang Xian with a knife. Bai Lu grabbed her brother's hand and dragged him somewhere. The girl was jealous of Bai Chao and Tang Xian. The girl announced that they were going home. She got up to run towards the exit. Bai Lu looked at the girl and said that there was one bad sly lady here, ready to devour the guy without a trace. The girl showed Tang Xian her tongue. At this moment, Tang Xian grabbed Bai Chao's other hand. She pulled it towards her and asked Bai Lu to cool down. After all, she was also very nice to Bai Chao. The girls were just tearing the guy in two. Tang Xian asked if what she said was true from her deputy. The girl was beyond angry. She thought that the girl was unworthy of her brother's attention. Tang Xian pressed her breasts against Bai Chao. She looked at him seductively and waited for him to respond. The guy was very embarrassed. He replied that the chairwoman was indeed very kind to him, and after all, they all live on the same planet, and why shouldn't they live in peace? At this time, Bai Lu stared intently at the girl holding the guy's hand. She was very angry when she saw how close Bai Chao and Tang Xian were. She didn't like it. The girl grabbed both of their hands, trying to break their bond. Bai Lu declared that the guys shouldn't be so close. She abruptly threw the two of them to the sides away from each other. The girl declared that she was the only one allowed to be so close to her brother. At that time, that sly girl was watching them. She got excited and ran up to Lulu. The girl had finally found her. Apparently, they were close. She held her up and said that it was very good that they are in fourth place, and next year they will try harder. Bai Lu asked to be let go and said that there was nothing good about fourth place. She pressed the girl against the wall and hugged her. The girl asked Bai Chao if he was Lulu's older brother. The boy awkwardly said hello. The girl said that Lulu talks about him all day long and doesn't pay attention to her. The girl couldn't think of a word to characterize their brotherly relationship with. Tang Xian helped the girl remember the word brocon. The girl got excited, complimented Tang Xian, and asked if she was Bai Chao's girlfriend, and if so, she could borrow Lulu. Bai Lu told the girl to shut up. Xiaoyuan was in a very good mood. Lulu grabbed her by the scruff of her neck and dragged her to the locker room since she needed to change. This girl is in charge of the props. The guys were looking at this picture. Tang Xian asked Bai Chao if he understood why his sister had failed. The boy hesitated for a moment. The band's performance was over. Everyone had already gone home. Bai Lu was about to go change. The girl was still in her stage costume. She told her little brother to wait for her. Bai Chao, along with Wu Xiaoyuan, waved to the girl. They sat on the stage. The boy pondered. He thought the chairwoman's argument sounded reasonable. The girl thought that Wu Xiaoyuan had ruined Lulu's costume, but the guy wasn't sure of the motive. Tang Xian noticed that she was the only one who wasn't upset about their team losing against each other, was even very happy. All this situation seemed suspicious to the girl, but the motive, the guy will have to find out for himself. The guy looked at Wu Xiaoyuan. He thought that he would have to ask her personal questions to find out her motive. The guy clutched his head. He didn't understand how he could think that. Wu Xiaoyuan asked if the guy was upset with Lulu's performance. Bai Chao replied that it was true. She had worked tirelessly for half a year, eventually coming in fourth place. The guy asked if Wu Xiaoyuan had checked Lulu's costume carefully. The girl hesitated. She didn't know what to say to the guy. Xiaoyuan became embarrassed. She replied that all the dance costumes had been very thoroughly checked, and she didn't know how that was the case. The girl thought that perhaps the bright lights on the stage were so hot that the threads started to melt. Bai Chao realized that there was really something wrong here. At that moment, the guy's phone started ringing. Wu Yao Yao dialed him. The guy understood the phone. Wu Yao Yao was lying in the bathtub at this time. She asked if Bai Chao was dead, that she didn't answer her message. She asked where he is now. The boy replied that he was at the small theater. The girl asked if he was there alone or if he went on a date with another girl. The guy thought he might be able to get Wu Xiaoyuan. He said into the phone that it was a good thing there was a security camera backstage to check on the girl. Wu Xiaoyuan's eyes flickered in a flash. Wu Yao Yao asked if they had a recording, if the junior high school students had performed. The girl at this second had already jumped out of the water. She asked if Bai Chao was in her womie. The girl didn't understand what he was saying. The guy kept acting out. He told her to wait and that he would be here soon. Wu Xiaoyuan heard his words. He said to call the police if he had to. Wu Xiaoyuan revealed herself. She ran up to the guy and told him not to do it. The girl abruptly grabbed Bai Chao's jacket, her hands shaking. She replied that she would confess everything. The girl was almost crying. Bai Chao was overjoyed and proud of himself for revealing Wu Xiaoyuan. At this time, Wu Yaoyao was sitting in the bathroom, pondering the dialogue with Bai Chao that had just ended. She didn't understand what kind of police they were talking about. The thought came to the girl that the police might be a code word, especially since Bai Chao had a strange speech. Everything came together in her mind. She thought that Bai Chao had been kidnapped. The girl climbed out of the bathroom, grabbing a towel. She proudly wrapped the towel around her wet body and headed for the exit of the tub. Yao Yao Hiroto stood and tied her towel. She thought it was her turn to save the handsome man. However, acting alone, in her opinion, was not a good idea if the guy was really in danger. Wu Yao Yao thought about what would happen if she went to the guy's aid. The girl would obviously be tied up and thrown next to Bai Chao, so she wouldn't help anyone. The girl didn't want this to happen. Wu Yao Yao wondered what she should do. She kept looking at her phone. In the next instant, an idea came to the girl as to how to help the young man. Wu Xiaoyuan shared her motivations with Bai Chao. It turns out Lulu had made a vow that she would quit dancing if she won the prize. Bai Chao was shocked by this information. The girl messed up her tutu just so she could keep dancing. Wu Xiaoyuan apologized. She just wanted Lulu to dance. The girl thought she was very selfish and was willing to do anything to appease Bai Chao's anger. The guy didn't understand anything at all. It was hard for him to believe that his sister had made such a decision. The girl ran up to Bai Chao and took him by the shoulders. She asked if he wanted Lulu to believe in her dream and keep dancing. Wu Xiaoyuan adored Lulu and her determination, so she was willing to do anything to support her. She asked if Bai Chao knew why the girl had decided to quit dancing. Wu Xiaoyuan replied that it was all Bai Chao's fault. The guy was shocked, not understanding how it was related. Lulu constantly looked up to her brother for his effort and diligent study habits. Her brother is trying hard. The girl was very attached to him. No matter what kind of brother he is, Lulu always follows him around. And in order to keep up with Bai Chao and take care of him more, Lulu decided to give up dancing. The girl's heart completely belongs to her brother. Even when Lulu rejected the girl, she showed her brother's picture to her as a reason. The guy was shocked that Wu Xiaoyuan is the person Lulu rejected. Wu Xiaoyuan was jealous of Lulu and Bai Chao, but still the girl has a love and talent for dancing. And if she gives up dancing, she clearly won't be able to stay calm and, most importantly, happy. Bai Chao pondered over Wu Xiaoyuan's words. He didn't understand what to do. At this time, it was pouring rain outside. Lightning was flashing. It was a real thunderstorm. Bai Chao carried his sister on his shoulders. She was holding an umbrella. Bai Chao suggested that she take a nap if she was tired. However, in that case, the girl wouldn't be able to hold the umbrella, and Bai Chao would get all wet. The guy said he heard that the girl had decided to quit dancing. He asked when she became an old woman would she regret that decision. Lulu asked him who he heard it from since she hadn't told him anything. He honestly admitted that Wu Xiaoyuan had said so. The rain was still not stopping. It was thumping loudly on the umbrella Lulu was carrying. Lulu loudly proclaimed that it wasn't what her brother thought it was. She squeezed her brother's shoulder tightly and was ready to explain everything to him. The girl blushed and said that until she surpassed that girl and became her brother's pride, she would not give up. The guy was upset that the girl was really only thinking about him. As he wondered which girl Lulu was talking about, he remembered the picture he had in his room. It showed a beautiful, dark-haired girl. Time never changes anything. It only silently watches from the sidelines. The boy remembered how the girl in the picture had left. 2 years had already passed and Bai Chao wasn't worried about her leaving. However, the emotion would forever remain in his memory. The boy was upset, remembering that situation. For this reason, Bai Chao doesn't want any more confessions. Lulu noticed that Bai Chao was upset. The girl grabbed her brother's cheek and asked if the guy had started thinking about her again as soon as she mentioned that bad girl. Bai Chao replied that there was no such thing, and now he was thinking about what they would eat for dinner. Lulu didn't believe him. The more he talked, the more she began to doubt. The guy thought picking a dance to outdo her was too childish and Lulu was still very young. The girl said emphatically that she didn't choose the dance because of her. She asked if Bai Chao didn't remember him talking about his life's work. The guy really didn't remember. Bai Chao remembered mentoring Lulu when they were little. He watched someone on TV explaining that there was always something to dedicate his life to, talking about achieving goals and the need to make every effort to do so. Lulu yelled at the boy to stop watching Ultraman and let him play with her. The boy didn't know what to do. At that moment, one of the elders said that it was time for the girl to get ready for her dance lesson. The boy had an idea how to keep his sister quiet. He asked if she had heard about her life's work. Lulu didn't know what her brother was talking about. The guy said dancing should be her life's work. Wanting to get rid of his petite sister, the guy memorized a couple of adult phrases and made her go to the dance. But he never imagined that these words would become her motto for life, and she would start practicing dancing hard. Bai Chao had completely forgotten where it all started. Lulu glared angrily at Bai Chao. She didn't understand how her brother could forget his own instructions. The girl thought that Bai Chao didn't care about her sister at all. The guy understood everything, because those were his favorite words from the first episode of Ultraman. The girl was even offended that he was only thinking about him. At this moment, Bai Chao noticed something behind his back. He turned around abruptly. Following him, Lulu turned around as well. She was wary by what she saw. A car was coming straight at them, its headlights brightly on. The car was blinding the guys with its headlights. Probably the driver couldn't see them because of the heavy rain. The driver swerved, trying to brake, splashes of water hitting the guys. Bai Chao and Lulu were very scared and weren't sure if they would survive. Lulu grabbed the umbrella. The girl jumped forward in a flash. She opened the umbrella trying to keep them safe. However, at this moment, Bai Chao blocked her path. He stood right in front of her, covered the girl with his body and told his sister to be careful. The girl watched the ensuing events fearfully. The car finally stopped. The girl looked down at Bai Chao fearfully. She asked if he was all right. The guys came home. Lulu was saying she had an umbrella, and he turned right around to face all the snark, and he tries to save everyone the trouble every time. The guy was wiping the girl's hair with a towel. She noticed that it's the same with dancing. Every time tired after his classes, the guy still goes to meet his sister. The girl thought that she was giving her brother a lot of trouble. That's why she wanted to quit dancing. The boy smiled. He didn't agree with the girl's words. The guy continued to wipe Lulu's hair. She sat on the couch embarrassed. When the boy became a brother, he immediately realized he had to take care of the girl. He touched her cheeks. Bai Chao said that Lulu can't quit dancing. Today she took 4th place, but she must definitely surpass that girl. The boy stroked his sister's head. The girl jumped up and asked if he was using tricks on her since he had spent all day with that vixen. The boy said it wasn't like that, and she said herself that it was Lulu's life's work to outdo her. Lulu hugged her brother tightly. She felt him all wet after the incident with the car. She looked at him happily and offered to help him dry off. The girl was shining with happiness. The guy felt embarrassed and told Lulu not to bother. After all, he was able to wipe himself. His sister told him not to say anything stupid. She plopped him on the bed. Lulu was sitting right on top of the guy. She was laughing slyly. The girl reached out her hand to Bai Chao and slyly licked. The girl wanted to see how healthy her brother's tummy was. She started tickling him. The boy didn't like it very much. He asked his sister to stop. The guys started to get spoiled, and all sorts of things flew around, which were in the guy's pocket. A coffee coupon that Ning Yi had given him flew into the air. At that moment, the boy remembered something. He was stunned. Bai Chao had forgotten about Ning Yi, and the fact that he had to answer her question tonight. The guy dressed in a flash and ran into the coffee shop. He was very excited that he was late. The girl was already waiting for him at the table. She was reading a book. Ning Yi asked if the problems had been solved. The guy didn't understand what problem Ning Yi was talking about. He asked how the girl knew the guy would be late. Ning Yi showed him a message from Wu Yao Yao. She wrote that the guy is not picking up the phone. Maybe he was kidnapped. Yao Yao was asked why Ning Yi wasn't answering. She was in a panic because she thought he had been kidnapped. Ning Yi told Wu Yao Yao that the guy was probably busy and she would take care of it herself. The guy felt uncomfortable, thinking that overprotecting leads to overprotecting. It seemed to Bai Chao that if he didn't solve the problems, there would be more problems in the future. He remembered how Lulu was hyper-parenting him. Also, Bai Chao also thought of that scene when the girl in the picture was leaving. Bai Chao sat down at a table with Ning Yi at the cafe the guys had been to the previous time as well. Bai Chao clarified whether the girl had suggested pretending to be a couple. Ning Yi replied that it was and asked if the guy had made up his mind. It was a beautiful day outside, with birds singing in the trees and the sun shining brightly. Streetlight streamed into the school through its glass doors. Standing against the wall was Wu Yao Yao. She heard the door open. The girl looked toward the door in surprise. She was waiting for someone. At this moment, Bai Chao walked through the door. He saw Wu Yao Yao and was confused. The boy looked at her in surprise. He hadn't expected to see anyone at the school. He was startled and asked what time the girl got up and why she had come here so early. The girl folded her arms and pretended not to understand what the guy was talking about. Didn't they just happen to meet here? Yao Yao had something to ask Bai Chao about. She grabbed the guy's hand and dragged him somewhere. The girl asked what they were doing last night with Ning Yi when she found the guy, and why he wasn't picking up the phone. Bai Chao turned away and didn't know what to say to the girl so as not to offend her. The guy thought they were just discussing some business with her. The girl turned abruptly and went somewhere. The guy asked what she wanted. Wu Yao Yao had guessed it all last night. The guy is so passive. Surely what the girl was going to take out of the bag fits his hobbies. Wu Yao Yao started looking in the bag. The girl got a present for the guy. She prepared a bandage and handcuffs for him. The girl untied the bandage and asked if the guy wanted to try it now. Bai Chao was puzzled where she learned how to use all these things. The girl took out a book with erotic content. She got most of the information from it, but the rest she guessed on her own. The guy ran away in a flash. He didn't want to get involved in no such games. The guy ran out into the street, Wu Yao Yao screaming where he was running off to. The girl was practically catching up with him. She asked if he wanted to try and use her gifts. Yanin Yi was watching this scene through the window. She was carrying a stack of papers. The girl looked out the window with interest. She could hear everything the guys were talking about. Wu Yao Yao yelled that Bai Chao was pissing her off. The guy said that he was on duty today and he had to go. The girl tried with all her might to stop him. The guy slipped away in a flash. Wu Yao Yao tried to find him. She looked even in the bushes. Her search unsuccessful, she yelled for the guy to come back. At this time, the guy was already in the study and wiping the blackboard. Wu Yao Yao declared that when she found him, he wouldn't get any more fruit juice from her. The girl didn't seem to notice the guy. At this moment, Bai Chao received a call from someone. He took out his phone from his pocket and looked at it. The guy picked up the phone. The girl who called was painting her toenails at the time. It was Tan Xiang. She said hello. I asked how the guy spent the weekend. The guy said thanks to the chairwoman, he had a great weekend. The guy went on to fulfill his duties as a duty officer. After their meeting at the concert, the guy kept cursing Tang Xian. He accused her of eating Lulu fried celery for a whole week because of the girl. Chen Xiang asked Bai Chao, since the guy was in a good mood, to help her solve a problem at the tennis club. The girl promised to treat him to coffee. At this moment, something wrong began to happen to the connection. The girl stopped hearing Bai Chao. He said it looked like his phone was running out of power and hung up. The girl obviously didn't believe him. She turned to the Tangerine and asked her to check if Bai Chao was in class. The Mandarin was Shan Wei, the head of the student union's self-governance department. The girl promised to do everything. Bai Chao felt that the campus dangers were clipping him from all sides. It all started again for him. He was being chased by the abundant attention of the girls. At that time, someone came into the office where the guy was wiping the blackboard. She placed her hand on Bai Chao's arm. The boy only now noticed that someone had come in. He looked at the person. The girl held Bai Chao's hand with a bored sponge. The guy was already sick of the constant attention. Ning Yi came into the office and asked if the guy had run away from Wu Yao Yao this morning. The guy asked how the girl knew that. The girl smiled sweetly and fixed her hair. She said that the guys had started cooperating last night and why not take advantage of their fake relationship already today. That way the guys would fix the whole misunderstanding. The guy got embarrassed and agreed. And Bai Chao blushed red with embarrassment. He couldn't even look at Ning Yi normally. The girl was staring intently at Bai Chao at this moment. She was scrutinizing every feature of her face. The girl reached out her hand to Bai Chao, calling out his name. Ning Yi stood on her toes. She wanted to kiss the guy. At this moment, Tian Xiang walked into the office where the guys were. She was carrying a big stack of papers and said that she had waited so long for the guy. The president was so shocked by what she saw in the office that she dropped her stack of papers on the floor. At the same moment, Wu Yao Yao ran into the office. She finally found the guy. The girl ran into the office looking excited. She had thought of something. The girl was stunned to see what the guys were doing in the office. In the study, the boys were kissing and holding hands. They looked in love with each other. Tian Xiang and Wu Yao Yao watched them with a dumbfounded look. The girls couldn't have foreseen this development. At this time, Ning Yi was gently stroking the guy's head. The girls all continued to be dumbfounded as they watched Ning Yi and Bai Chao's tenderness. Tang Xiang had a surprised expression on her face while Wu Yao Yao was extremely pissed off. Ning Yi gently ruffled the guy's hair. The guy was embarrassed. She moved closer and said the guy had chalky hair. The girl wanted to shake it off. The girl asked him to tilt his head a little lower, because she couldn't see everything. The boy blushed, because Ning was so close. From the outside, it looked like they were kissing, with Wu Yao Yao watching the whole thing. Tears came to Wu Yao Yao's eyes. She was nervously rubbing her hair. The girl's heart was broken. In an instant, Wu Yao Yao turned around, rushing away from the classroom. The girl cried loudly, running down the hallway. Tang Xiang didn't know what to say to the guy. There were scattered sheets of documents lying around her. The girl started to pick them up. She apologized to Bai Chao and fixed her hair. Tian Xiang said she was done and had to go. The girl ran out of the classroom in a flash. The boy was shocked. The guy was stunned by these reactions from the girls. Ning Yi didn't fully understand what had happened. The girl seemed to hear the voice of Wu Yao Yao and someone else. She was shaking her hands off the chalk. The boy scratched his head and said that it was fine. It was probably even better. Bai Chao didn't know what to say to Wu Yao Yao, but now he was randomly relieved of the weight that was weighing on his mind. Ning Yi suggested to the guy to go to the literary club because they had something to discuss with him. The guy agreed and thought that if everything went well, the problems would be solved naturally. The boys came into the literary club room to talk alone. Someone called out to Senior. A guy walked into the office. He was a member of the literary club and was holding a stack of papers. The boys looked at him in surprise. They didn't expect to see anyone else in the literary club. The guy noticed that the deputy was here as well. He wanted to ask the guy to leave as he needed to personally discuss literary club matters with the girl. Bai Chao was confused. Bai Chao thought it would be better for him to leave and not disturb the guys talking about work. The girl's look changed in an instant, and she looked at him hopefully, wondering if he'd gotten her hints. It was probably the same guy who had confessed to the girl. Bai Chao gritted his teeth. He realized what he had to do and how to take advantage of their not-real relationship. Bai Chao stood in front of Ning Yi and stated that since it was about the club, that guy had nothing to hide. Bai Chao refused to leave. The guy asked who Bai Chao thought he was, and if he wanted to use his position in the student union to point them out. Ning Yi replied that Bai Chao deputy of the student union. The girl walked to the door of the literary club. The girl hesitated. She wanted to talk about Bai Chao's new status as her boyfriend. Ning Yi revealed that she and Bai Chao were dating. The guy who walked in was extremely surprised. He realized that on that day, the girl was talking about the person she liked, and it was Bai Chao. Ning Yi confirmed this information. The guy was very upset. He dropped all his papers. His heart was broken. The girl proudly walked away. Bai Chao followed behind her. He looked pityingly at the guy who had been rejected by Ning Yi. It was cold on the lad's soul. He sobbed and thought his life was over. Bai Chao decided to ask if that guy had just wanted to tell the girl that he liked her. Exiting the office, Ning Yi apologized and bowed low to Bai Chao. The girl apologized for her willfulness. Bai Chao said that it was fine. It was the only way to solve the problem. And now that guy would spread the rumor. Bai Chao asked if it was hard to refuse her. The girl sighed and replied that it wasn't difficult at all and there was another candidate. Ning Yi moved her chair and asked if the guy had thought about what couples usually do. The girl said that them walking to and from school together wouldn't be enough to fool everyone. She suggested that the guy join a literary club so they could spend more time together. Ning Yi became embarrassed and lowered her head down. She said that there was something else she wanted to do. When a girl was researching couple relationships yesterday, she came across a pink app where lovers leave their mark. She suggested they try it. The guy wondered what app the girl was talking about. Bilibili came to his mind, but he didn't know it also taught people how to date. Ning Yi walked up to Bai Chao. She wrapped her arms around his neck. The guy was confused. Ning Yi asked the guy to tilt his head slightly to the side once more. She told Bai Chao not to move. The girl moved closer to Bai Chao's neck. The guy was shocked at what was happening. He became very embarrassed and blushed. The girl kissed the guy's neck. It was part of her plan. Sasha has a lipstick mark left on his neck. Others seeing it will think the guy is dating someone. Their relationship looked more realistic now. The girl smiled sweetly. She was doing quite well. Bai Chao was surprised that the girl had prepared well. Now he was calm. Ning Yi sat down on a chair and said that she still had some things to do today, but from tomorrow they would start going to a place. The guy smiled and agreed to abide by their not-real relationship. Bai Chao was walking home from school. He walked down the stairs. The boy wondered what he was thinking about. If Bai Chao joins the literary club, he will become the vice chairman, and the chairwoman might think that he betrayed the student union. Tang Xian might even kill him for such a thing. The guy wanted to solve the problem but ended up getting into more trouble. He didn't realize if this was the typical life of a student. At this moment, Bai Chao's gaze was caught by something. Someone abruptly ran up to him. It was Wu Yao Yao. She was blocking the guy's way. She had a bow and arrow on her shoulders. She was running from training. The girl was very serious and said the guys needed to talk. It was getting evening outside, and a picturesque sunset appeared in the sky, which shimmered with different colors. Bai Chao walked over to the food stand. The vendor called out to him and told him that the boy's order was ready. The young man thanked the vendor and bought Wu Yao Yao and himself some ice cream. The boy was going to pay with his card. At this time, a tune was playing outside singing about love and relationships. Bai Chao picked up his order and carried the ice cream to the girl. Wu Yao Yao was sitting on the steps near the lake with a sad look. She was admiring the sunset. Bai Chao brought the girl's order. He looked at her sadly and realized how she was feeling. Bai Chao didn't know what to say to her. Wu Yao Yao didn't want to eat ice cream, so she refused the guy's offer. He was surprised and asked if she was on a diet today. Wu Yao Yao snatched the glass of ice cream from the guy with a displeased look. She had a grudge against him. Yao Yao asked with a frustrated look if she and Ning Yi had been together for a long time. Bai Chao replied that they had started dating yesterday. Wu Yao Yao shouted in surprise that that was exactly what they were discussing then. Bai Chao felt awkward. He didn't like this whole situation. It was difficult for him to communicate with Wu Yao Yao at this moment. The girl asked if it would be okay if she called Ning Yi now and said that they were on a date. The girl wanted to annoy the guy in every possible way. Bai Chao didn't know what to reply. He said that Ning Yi was quite understanding and wouldn't be jealous of him. The girl frustratedly started eating her ice cream. She was still confused by this unexpected news. Stirring her ice cream, she asked if Bai Chao really liked Ning Yi. Bai Chao replied that it was the first thing he said to Ning Yi and the guys are really good together. Wu Yao Yao said with a frustrated look that she liked the guy exactly less than Wu Yao Yao. The guy turned away. He couldn't look into Wu Yao Yao's eyes. He said that Ning Yi thought he was a person worthy of trust. Bai Chao did not decisively say that this was enough for them to start dating. The girl looked at the beautiful sunset and said she felt it too. She tried to explain to the guy that she was worthy of dating him too. When they met here a few years ago, the girl trusted him immediately. Wu Yao Yao smiled sweetly, trying to hide her true feelings. The girl noticed that now was not the time to talk about such things. She thought of Ning Yi sitting in her place in the future and eating ice cream with Bai Chao. The two of them watched the sun set over the horizon. A tear rolled down Wu Yao Yao's cheek. The girl laughed nervously. She was shocked by the situation. The girl didn't understand what she was saying. Bitter tears were pouring from her eyes. She tried to hold back, but she couldn't. Wu Yao Yao gathered all her strength into a fist and dared to tell something important to the guy. The wind was so strong that it untied the girl's bows. She said that if Wu Yao Yao was in love, she would definitely follow Bai Chao. At that moment, the wind blew off one of the girl's bows, her hair loose. Wu Yao Yao continued to say that she would always sit next to Bai Chao. The guy looked at her thoughtfully. The ribbon from Wu Yao Yao's bow flew away with a breeze and fell to the ground. The guy was about to pick it up but suddenly stopped. Wu Yao Yao reached for the ribbon. The guy didn't want to run into her hands. The girl asked the guy to help her tie her hair. For Bai Chao, it was a familiar thing to do since he has a sister. He asked Wu Yao Yao to tilt his head. The guy easily tied a bow on the girl's hair perfectly. At this moment, a realization came to Bai Chao about the whole situation and what they were doing. Bai Chao realized that he shouldn't do such a thing anymore, and now he had a girlfriend. At this very moment, Wu Yao Yao also realized all of this. A great sadness came over her soul. But nevertheless, the bows were already tied. Bai Chao sighed heavily and asked if he had tied his hair well. Wu Yao Yao said with a depressed look that it probably wasn't bad. Bai Chao had often braided the girl's hair in the past. She wondered if this was the last time. Bai Chao didn't know what to say to the girl so as not to upset her even more. He mumbled something. Wu Yao Yao grabbed his hands. She said it was obvious to her that one date wouldn't be enough. The girl would look forward to eating ice cream together again, but Bai Chao wouldn't give her the chance. The girl cried bitterly as she looked at Bai Chao. Her sobs could be heard from far away. Passers-by began to look at the guys. They thought that something terrible had happened. Wu Yao Yao was cursing at the guy and punching him in the chest. She wished him dead and called the guy names. If Wu Yao Yao had known what the guy was like, she would not have fallen in love with him. Bai Chao was surprised by such an explosion of emotions, but the guy himself remained calm. In fact, it's in the order of things. When the girl held back silently, watering her tears, the guy was in unbearable pain. Such an outburst of emotions calmed the guy down a bit. He hugged the girl and tried to calm her down. They were over. It seemed to the guy that, as long as their fake relationship with Ning Yi continued, this problem would solve itself. So Bai Chao went back home. Lulu was already waiting for him. The girl had bought him some ice cream. He thought about the end of his story with Wu Yao Yao and why everything would go back to normal. The guy replied that he didn't want ice cream as he had a stomachache. Memory remains in the past. Life awaits in the future. The guy thought that for Wu Yao Yao, he would only be a speck of dust between them. The guy was upset and was lying on his bed. Lulu came into his room at that moment and saw that something was wrong with the boy. Bai Chao kept thinking about the situation. He thought that he had done enough to finish the story with Wu Yao Yao. Lulu walked over to her brother. She pulled the blanket off of him and screamed merrily. The boy was stunned with fear and surprise. Bai Chao shouted at his sister. He didn't understand why scare him like that. Bai Chao asked what the girl was doing in his room. Lulu came because her brother had a stomachache and wanted to cover him with a blanket. If Bai Chao was upset about something, her sister was willing to be there for him. And if Bai Chao was hungry, the girl was ready to make him a meal. The boy smiled at this kind of support from his sister. At this moment, Bai Chao received a notification on his phone. Ning Yi wrote to him. The girl asked how they would go to school now to support the picture of their not-real relationship. The next morning, Bai Chao went to meet Ning Yi to go to school together. Bai Chao noticed that there was some kind of eerie atmosphere hovering in the air this morning. He felt like absolutely every single person on the street was staring at him with a judgmental look. At this moment, someone patted the guy on the shoulder with a newspaper. Bai Chao was startled by this unexpected event. 3 guys, who looked more like bandits, called out to him. One of them said that he had heard that a guy was hitting on Ning Yi, so he asked if it was true. The second guy said that the rumored pervert Bai Chao grabbed the girl and forced her to do whatever he wanted. The third shortest guy didn't say anything. He was holding something that looked like a knife made out of newspapers. Bai Chao responded by giving them top marks for acting, And the guy needs to wash that translating gum tattoo off his arm soon, because they have a discipline test this month. The guy was surprised, as Bai Chao realized that the tattoo was translational. Bai Chao shouted that there was no need to be a genius here. Everything was clear as soon as he looked at his hand. Bai Chao asked if they wanted to skip the fourth step, and in the afternoon, the English teacher would tell them the contents of the newspaper. The boys were very surprised that the newspaper from which they made a sword was needed for the lesson. The guys said they were only joking and asked if it was all true that he was dating Ning Yi. The guys put their hands on his shoulders. At this moment, Bai Chao was called out by someone. All the guys as well as Bai Chao himself were surprised. He was called over by Ning Yi. She said hello to Bai Chao. The girl looked very pretty in her school uniform with her long hair loose. Ning Yi apologized for being late and smiled sweetly at Bai Chao. Bai Chao said that she wasn't late, and he himself had just arrived. The guys were shocked when they saw this. Their jaws dropped. The guys couldn't believe that this was all true. There was no way Bai Chao could have forced the girl to date. The guys watered their tears from the missed opportunities. Ning Yi looked at them in surprise. She didn't know who these guys were. The girl asked if they were putting Bai Chao in trouble. Bai Chao said that wasn't true. They were his classmates, but Ning Yi helped him perfectly. The girl had something for Bai Chao. She reached into her bag to take it out. The guys were still watching them in surprise. The guy asked what it was. The girl was going to give the guy tea with lemon, which she had prepared herself this morning. Ning Yi took out a thermos of tea from her bag and handed it to Bai Chao. The guys were still crying because the girl offered Bai Chao a drink according to tradition. They thought that the guy was humiliating them, and just a lemon would have been enough for them. Bai Chao became embarrassed and asked if the girl minded if he carried her bag. The girl was surprised at such a suggestion. She said she shouldn't do it. Ning Yi didn't want to bother the guy. Bai Chao quietly told her in her ear that this was exactly how couples acted. Ning Yi thought that he was good, and had studied the behavior of people in love well. The guy was pleased with her praise. The girl handed the guy her bag. Bai Chao couldn't hold on to Ning Yi's briefcase for a second. It was so heavy that it pierced the asphalt. The girl asked if everything was all right. Bai Chao replied that she was just in her studies. Why would she need so many things? The guy didn't miss her briefcase. It fell to the ground, a book peeking out of her purse. In the next moment, all the other books came out. There were a lot of them, with different covers. The boy didn't understand why the girl needed so many. The boy picked up one of the books thinking it was the only way to sleep for an entire semester. Bai Chao thought that perhaps the girls in the literary club carried such bags to keep themselves in shape. The girl stepped back a little. She wanted to ask the guy something. Ning Yi turned around and asked if the guy thought literature was difficult to understand. Bai Chao was a techie, and for him, literature was indeed something difficult and uninteresting. The girl ran her hand over Bai Chao's shirt. She thought that literature had never looked down on life and was not detached from the masses. Whether ancient or modern, Western or Eastern, literature has always reflected human life. People's experiences, feelings, and emotions are the source of both life and literature. The girl kept climbing up the guy's shirt with her fingers. She believed that literature was the science of man. The girl had already gotten close to his tie. Behind it was a brooch given by Tang Xian. Even fiction is one of the possible manifestations of human life. The expression of what is in your heart is your own literature, Ning Yi believed. Ning Yi stroked the guy's head apologetically and said that from the point of view of materialism, literature is expressions of what's in his head. Bai Chao took the girl's hand and noticed that even so, he didn't really understand her. Ning Yi gave an example. She asked if the guy thought he liked Wu Yao Yao. The guy thought about it. He remembered how they spent a lot of time together. The guys ate delicious food and laughed a lot. They had known Wu Yao Yao for a long time. As a friend, she's a very interesting person and very funny. However, if it comes to love, it was too much for Bai Chao. The guy thought that was why it was better to remain friends with her. Ning Yi remarked that such feelings could be transferred into a story. She would look forward to it. Bai Chao tried to excuse himself. He wouldn't even waste paper on such trivial matters. At this time, someone was watching their dialogue. It was Tangerine. The girl was furious that the student union was about to collapse, and Bai Chao had a date here. The girl asked to be allowed to know something. She glared fiercely at the guy. The girl angrily asked what color Bai Chao's blood was. Ning Yi calmly stood to the side and didn't understand what was going on at all. The boy started running away from Tangerine in a flash. He was frightened of what the girl might do. He asked what she was saying. Mandarin kept catching up with Bai Chao. Her hands almost reached the guy's hair. He was shocked at the girl's insistence. At this time, Tangerine was given a flick on the head by someone and stopped the girl. It was Ning Yi. Tangerine immediately calmed down and stopped chasing after the guy. The girl asked about the student union. Ning Yi wondered if something had happened to him, and why did the Mandarin need Bai Chao so urgently? It was a warm, lovely day outside. The sun was shining brightly. and the leaves on the trees swayed quietly in the wind. In the student council office, Tang Xiang was lying on the desk. The girl was depressed. She was upset with the news of Bai Chao's relationship. The girl held a bow in her hands, in the center of which she sewed Bai Chao's torn-off button. Tangerine angrily paced down the corridor. The girl was infuriated by the guy's behavior. Bai Chao asked what happened to the student union. Bai Chao didn't understand what the girl's words about him falling apart meant. The guy asked not to say that. Mandarin turned angrily to Bai Chao. She was angry that the chairwoman had found out about their relationship with Ning Yi. The boy said that yesterday, when he and the senior were in class, the chairwoman called out to him, but immediately ran away, and she must have found out about everything. Tangerine sighed heavily. She realized that she was going to have a difficult conversation. The girl patted the guy on the head and said they had to go save the student union. Tangerine said with a creepy expression on her face that the guy would go with mommy to apologize to the chairwoman. When the time comes, the girl will be his assistant in committing harakiri. The boy was horrified at such words. Bai Chao didn't understand what it all meant and why he had to apologize to Tang Xian. Whether it was so serious that the guy would have to do harakiri to atone. Tangerine pulled Bai Chao's tie. She said that one is dumb and the other is cowardly, and they are made for each other. It's surprising that the guys are still not together. Tangerine smiled and thought that luckily the guys had her. The girl had a plan to make things right. She would not let a bad outcome happen. The boys came to the office of the chairwoman. The Mandarin opened the door leisurely. The chairwoman was still lying upset on the table. She looked toward the door. At this moment, Mandarin pushed Bai Chao into the study with her foot. Tang Xian was very surprised to see this scene. The girl closed the door. The guy screamed that Tangerine had decided to kill him. He almost choked. If the guys didn't decide anything today, the girl wouldn't let them out even if they starved to death. The boy was shocked at such determination. Tang Xian was confused from such unusual help from her friend. Tangerine shouted that they were pissing her off. Tang Xian smiled sweetly as she looked at the guy. The girl rejoiced at Bai Chao's arrival. She was holding a bow with Bai Chao's button sewn in the center. The girl hid her trophy in the blink of an eye so Bai Chao wouldn't see it. Tang Xian looked at Bai Chao frustratedly. There was no emotion on the girl's face. Bai Chao looked at her in surprise. He didn't know where to start the conversation, how to resolve this situation. The boys were at different sides of the office, none of them daring to take a step towards each other. Tang Xian was surprised that Bai Chao decided to visit her. After all, this rarely happened. The girl didn't want to look at the guy. She pretended to look at the leaf. The guy pointed his finger at the stack of papers. The girl sat on one side and Bai Chao's zone was on the other. The guy noticed that it was like the 38th parallel. Bai Chao thought that it was childish, and even 5th graders didn't play these games anymore, and a college student only needed to give a reason. The girl confidently stated that it wasn't true. Tang Xian explained that the filing cabinet was broken, so she had to pile them all on the table. The guy was surprised that she piled all the documents in one pile without checking their contents. The chairwoman moved closer to the guy. She sighed heavily and sat down on the table. The girl said that she was slacking off because of Bai Chao. The girl blushed. The guy started going through the papers. He said that if the girl was training him for wage slavery in a company with a 12-hour work schedule, the girl should just say so. Tang Xian lay down on the table and said that she wouldn't speak in such boring phrases. The girl rested her head on a stack of papers, looked at the guy sweetly and smiled. The guy awkwardly asked why Tang Xian did it, so carelessly tossing around the documents. The girl replied that she had another reason. Tang Xian was embarrassed. She had already started to speak. The next moment, the girl admitted that she liked the guy. She turned sideways, turned her head away from Bai Chao. The guy was shocked. He looked at the girl in horror. Tang Xian blushed. She was well aware that the guy wouldn't reciprocate her. The girl continued to lie on the table like this while Bai Chao went through the papers. The guy's hands were shaking from embarrassment. He blushed and didn't know how he should act in such a situation. Bai Chao was forced to reject the chairwoman's offer. The girl was surprised at such a formal speech. Tang Xian was offended that the guy doesn't even want to know the reason. Bai Chao jumped up from the table and thought that the girl would probably tell him the reason anyway. He tried to calm himself down as best he could. The girl said that there was nothing she could do. Tang Xian said that it's because the deputy likes to eat fish, and if you like a person, you don't like everything about them. So she's always catching fish with her hands to please the deputy. Bai Chao replied that it was a very touching reason for slacking off, and he would put the girl in the top 10 most sensual people in Jingnan. The guy thought that these were typical fox tricks. The guy thought that the girl was deep down smiling when she saw his flushed and confused face. Tang Xiang stood up from the table. Looking at the deputy, the girl didn't think she would be right. Tang Xian's mood instantly changed, and the girl smiled. At that moment, the door opened, smelling of anger and dark energy. Mandarin said that was why the chairwoman's behavior had led to today's situation. The guys realized that it was Tangerine standing outside the door. She glared angrily at Tang Xian. The girl was very surprised to see Tangerine standing outside the door. She ran to her in a flash. Bai Chao didn't understand what caused Tang Xian to react so violently. Tang Xiang asked since when she had been peeping. Tangerine reassured her and said that she already knew everything, and there was only one person in the whole world who didn't know about the girl's feelings. Tang Xian felt that there was nothing more she could do if things had led to this result. Tangerine was about to enter the study. She said that Bai Chao didn't understand anything because the girl is afraid to tell him. Mandarin was going to help her with this. After all, this needs to be over with. Bai Chao didn't understand what the girls were talking about. He looked at them in surprise. Tangerine grabbed her friend's hand and dragged her out of the study. The girls decided to talk about everything outside alone and discuss all the secrets. The girls went up to the roof, and Tangerine asked Tianxian if she would play an old maid. Tianxian didn't know what to say. Tangerine didn't think that was what her friend wanted of her own free will. Tang Xian asked if she thought the girl should take the guy away. Mandarin replied that if Tang Xian wanted to take him away, she would support her, however. The girl shouldn't go that far. Tangerine whispered something in her friend's ear. Tang Xian looked at the Tangerine in surprise. She was surprised to hear this. After Tang Xian returned back to the backward class, her mood had completely changed. She said that the council was still working. The girl wanted to discuss the financial reports. Tang Xian was surprised to see the guy in such a state. He was angrily sitting on the floor. The guy was already waiting for Tang Xian. He looked at her resentfully and asked if the girl wanted to talk to him about work. Bai Chao asked if the girl was okay. What happened to her? Mandarin peeked out from behind the door. She said it was a girl's secret and the guy shouldn't ask too many questions. Tangerine turned around. She was going to go to the swim club. The guys were left to sort things out for themselves. The girl declared that their business was none of her business. A brilliant thought popped into the guy's head. What could the girls have been talking about? He thought they had decided to blow up the college. Tang Xiang twisted one of the sheets into a roll and hit Bai Chao on the head. The girl asked what he was saying. She was fully determined to work. There was a tall stack of papers on the table in front of the guys. These association purchasing statements had an expiration date in a week. If they weren't approved today, they'd better blow up the college before the management killed them. Tang Xian thought that Tangerine was constantly catching fish with her hands, and that was over the top. The boy shouted that the same could be said about the girl. The girl thought enough idle talk. She offered to watch it all together. Tang Xian put her head on the guy's shoulder. The boys set to work. The swimming club wanted to buy new equipment. And the tennis club wants to change rackets, the girl kept claiming. Tang Xian got her hands on the papers of the literary club. They asked to confirm the subscription to the magazine. Bai Chao looked at Tang Xian in surprise. He hoped that his relationship would not affect the girl's decision. Tianxiang smiled slyly. She was up to something. The girl said that literature is not a significant thing for their students and they need to do well in their major. The chairwoman said that after a vote of all the members of the student union, it was decided to dissolve the club. Tang Xiang was already ready to sign the document. Bai Chao shouted at the girl. He grabbed her arm, preventing her from signing. The guy was scared out of his wits. He asked her to take all clubs seriously and equally, since she was the chairperson. The girl replied that this is exactly how she works. The guy took all the papers and said that now Tang Xian would verify everything, and the guy would approve. The girl took offense and noticed how strict Bai Chao was. She rubbed Bai Chao's head and agreed to his suggestion. The girl had one thing on her mind that required just such a strict deputy's help. Bai Chao already sensed something wrong at this moment. He didn't trust the chairwoman's ideas. The girl glowed with happiness and said that only Bai Chao could help her. She suggested we meet on Saturday. A few days later, the events took place at the mall. Lulu stared at the clothes on the rack. Bai Chao was in a stupor upon seeing the item his sister had chosen. She grabbed the pink shorts and asked her brother to try them on, since they were on discount. The guy tried to refuse. He already had swim trunks and had worn them once. The guy asked if he needed another one. Lulu replied that he needed them because his swim trunks were missing. The guy said he had swimming as a physical education class this semester, so he needed them. Bai Chao didn't understand where his swimming trunks could have disappeared to, after all. He had put them in his bag last week. Bai Chao reached into his bag to find his swimming trunks. Instead, he fumbled for the thermos that Ning Yi had given him. The guy was confused. He didn't understand where his swim trunks could have gone. Lulu watched intently as the guy rummaged through his bag. Bai Chao realized that if his sister saw that thermos, she would kill him on the spot. Bai Chao hid the bag behind his back and said that they were really missing, looks like we'll have to buy a new one. Lulu noticed that her brother was acting strange. She pounced on him and demanded he let her see what he was hiding. Bai Chao tried to escape from her while holding the bag in his hands. Bai Chao tried to stop his sister. I'm going to explain everything now. The guy was very nervous. He said that in his bag is a bug, super scary, that looks like an octopus and appears to be predatory. If his sister sees one, she won't sleep at night because she's scared. Naturally, the girl didn't believe her brother. She demanded to let her see the bug. The boy held her at arm's length. He didn't know how to appease his sister. The boy asked how the girl knew his swim trunks were missing. Had his sister done something naughty behind his back? Lulu blushed. The girl hesitated. She didn't know what to say to her brother. Lulu exhaled. Something still needed to be said. At this moment, a devilish thought came to her. She wondered if Bai Chao really wanted to know this in that case, but would be very loud. There were just a lot of people in the store. The guy didn't understand what was wrong with the expression on her face. He asked her to speak without being weird. Lulu smiled and began to explain why his swim trunks were missing. She wasn't sure she should tell her brother this story. The incident happened last week. The girl was embarrassed to bring it up. Lulu put on a skirt but couldn't find her shorts, and the guy's swim trunks were lucky to get under her arm. That's why the girl decided to wear the guy's swim trunks under her skirt, even though they were a little tight. Bai Chao covered her mouth with her hand so that no one else could hear it. Bai Chao still decided to buy those swim trunks. Bai Chao stroked the girl's head and asked if she wanted to buy herself a swimsuit since they were at the store. The girl got embarrassed and blushed. She asked if her brother wanted to see her change her clothes. Bai Chao and his sister were in a shopping mall. The girl asked loudly if her brother wanted to watch her change clothes. Bai Chao was afraid that someone would hear it. The guy grabbed his sister's head and told her she was thinking about things kids shouldn't be thinking about, and he had no such strange predilections. The girl tried to break free from her brother's arms. She asked him not to touch her hair because he would tangle it. Lulu smiled. She couldn't believe the guy had never thought about it. Otherwise, the reaction wouldn't have been so violent. The girl turned around and said that it looked like her brother was just thinking about what he shouldn't. Bai Chao thought that she shouldn't throw her words around like that. Lulu started to pick out her swimsuit. She took one in white for 129 yen. And after a while, the girl found another one that caught her fancy. It was pink and cost 229 yen. Lulu couldn't choose which one she liked best. She also compared their prices. The girl has been saving money for a long time now, must have a pretty big stash already. It even seemed to the guy that she was a little rich woman. The girl had been putting her pocket money into a piggy bank for a long time. Bai Chao approached his sister. He asked how much money she had saved up. The girl replied that it was a lot. The boy noticed that she had been saving for a long time. Lulu figured her savings weren't enough anyway. It would barely be enough for the things she wanted. The guy asked if Lulu wanted to buy something. The girl was surprised at such a question. She turned around and asked if her brother wanted to know about it. She flushed and said that even if Bai Chao wanted to know about it, she was not at all willing to say. Bai Chao interrupted her and said that in that case, he didn't want to know. The guy was actually very curious, but no matter how close they were, a brother and sister should have their own secrets. Moreover, it could be the biggest secret associated with teenage romance, or also the legends of demons and the power that can save the world. The boy thought that in any case his sister could not be ordinary. The girl was embarrassed. Lulu turned around and smiled sweetly at her brother. Bai Chao was definitely sure of one thing. Lulu thanked Bai Chao for her kindness. The guy was stunned at such words. He thought his sister was pretty damn cute. Bai Chao approached the girl and told her that since she's saving money, she'd better not spend it. Fortunately, he doesn't save money, and is willing to buy what the girl likes. However, Bai Chao was worried about something. He thought for a moment. Bai Chao picked up the more expensive swimsuit and looked at it carefully. The guy presented his sister in this swimsuit. It was pretty open and revealing. The guy introduced himself to her by the pool with her hair tied back. And even if that swimsuit fits Lulu well, there's bound to be someone with strange intentions. The guy thought that there was no way they could buy such a swimsuit because men would immediately look at her. He had already pictured some man proposing to the girl, and how Bai Chao was already leading her to marry him. Bai Chao thought that there was no way he could let this happen. Bai Chao thought it was better to buy a cheaper swimsuit. It was a slip-on swimsuit. Lulu turned to him, showed her tongue, and thought her brother was greedy. Lulu decided to go try on a swimsuit. Bai Chao smiled. At this moment, someone approached Bai Chao from the back. This person asked if it was Bai Chao. The guy turned around surprised. He wasn't expecting anyone. The man threw a black bag with a bow on it into his hands. The girl said that Wu Yao Yao has been out of school for 2 days. Today was the 3rd day. They've questioned everyone in the college, and only Bai Chao seems to know where she lives. Besides, the student union is obligated to serve the students, so Bai Chao should give all these notes to Wu Yao Yao. The girl said that this task was assigned to him by someone from above, and refusals would not be accepted. Bai Chao was surprised by the girl's height. She turned around, said goodbye, and said she had to go. Bai Chao needed to deliver this by lunch. The guy was shocked. At that moment, Lulu came out of the fitting room. She tried on her new swimsuit and asked what her brother thought. At that moment, the girl saw a woman's bag from the guy. She looked at it angrily, and her instincts activated. Lulu chased after the guy, asking where the bag came from and if some bad girl had given it to him. Lulu was going to get violent if the guy didn't explain it reasonably. Bai Qiao ran away from his sister with all his legs. He said that he had some urgent matters and would explain everything when they got home. Chasing after his sister and the cruel punishment that awaited him at home frightened Bai Qiao a little. However, it seemed to him that handing these notes to Wu Yao Yao was the most troublesome thing. The guy came to her house. The girl didn't go to school because he broke up with her. The guy didn't know how he should communicate with Wu Yao Yao, however. If she opens the door, the guy should say something. He decided to rehearse their dialogue. The guy imagined giving Wu Yao Yao her notes. He didn't like the way he played the delivery guy. The guy needed to come up with something right away. He decided to start by saying that it had been a long time since they had seen each other. However, that wasn't the best idea because it had only been 3 days. The next thought was to ask how the girl was feeling, for the lad had heard that she was ill. But the young man dismissed the idea in a flash, because he couldn't have heard about it out of nowhere. It would be strange if he rejected the man and immediately started asking him. He decided to say that her classmates had given her the notes, but it was too inhuman to say such things that had nothing to do with the guy. At that moment, someone approached from behind him. The girl called Bai Qiao handsome and remarked that they hadn't seen each other in a long time. After a while, Lulu sent messages to Bai Qiao. She thanked him for the swimsuit and said that she was already home and cooking dinner. The girl took selfies in the mirror in her new swimsuit and sent it to Bai Qiao. The pictures were very candid. The guy got embarrassed and blushed looking at her. The girl invited the guy for coffee. She asked if he had come to visit Wu Yao Yao and decided to give her the notes at the same time. The girl forgot to buy onions, so she sent Wu Yao Yao to the store. The girl should be back soon. The girl's name was Chen. She invited Bai Qiao to have dinner with them, as she had bought a lot of goodies. The boy was very embarrassed by this conversation. He thanked Auntie Chen and said that he had some business at home. Auntie Chen needed to find out something from the guy. He was very nervous and afraid of the woman. Miss Chen heard her daughter was rejected a few days ago. She held the coffee in her hands. Her expression changed. She asked Bai Qiao if he knew what had happened. The guy had absolutely no idea what caused Auntie Chen to react this way. Guy was really afraid. Wu Yao Yao's mom came closer to the guy, patted his shoulder, and asked him if he really didn't understand anything. Bai Qiao remembered. He thought that the household chores could wait, and he could stay late. Auntie Chen put on a pink apron. She was glad that Bai Qiao had changed her mind. She said that the guy would soon appreciate her cooking skills. The girl winked at Bai Qiao. The guy lowered his head as he sat on the couch. He didn't understand where this crazy pressure was coming from, or if he had really consented to something horrible. At that moment, Wu Yao Yao came home. She opened the door and called out to her mom. Wu Yao Yao said that she bought onions. The girl went inside the house and began to rasbua. She was very surprised at what she saw in front of her. The girl blushed. Right in front of her stood Bai Qiao. The guy awkwardly said hello. The girl didn't understand how he was here. Wu Yao Yao ran to her mom. The girl's brain was already melting. She was screaming. Auntie Chen didn't understand what her daughter was saying. Wu Yao Yao ran to her mom in tears and hugged her. Miss Chen didn't understand what caused the girl's reaction. Wu Yao Yao was scared. She thought she was hallucinating and seeing the one on the couch. Madame Chen sadly lowered her eyes. She seemed to have understood everything. The girl thought she was hallucinating because of her fever. She was sure she would never recover. At that moment, Auntie Chen came up with an idea. Her mother stroked Wu Yao Yao's head and said that the girl was really not in her right mind right now, and the doctor handed over a diagnosis certificate and told her to let her know when her daughter's emotional state stabilized. Wu Yao Yao was very scared. She was crying and asking what she should do now. Auntie Chen said that the only thing left to do is to wait for the illness to pass, and now the girl can entertain her hallucinations in her room. She will call when dinner is cooked. Wu Yao Yao didn't understand what her mom was talking about, what it meant to have fun in her room. The girl gathered her courage. She gritted her teeth and thought it was worth taking action. Wu Yao Yao climbed onto the couch. She said hello to the guy. The girl still thought that Bai Qiao was just a hallucination. The boy didn't understand why he was being treated as a hallucination. Wu Yao Yao smiled. She really liked seeing the guy's hallucination. She thought he looked a lot like the real thing. The girl laughed. Bai Qiao said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. The guy heard that she was sick. The girl's classmates handed her the notes. The guy reached for them. The girl interrupted him and thought that she was a very cool hallucination. Not only could she talk, but also acted the same way. The boy thought she was really out of her mind because of her illness. Bai Qiao handed Wu Yao Yao the notes that her classmates had handed over. The girl smiled and refused to take those notes. Bai Qiao asked why. Wu Yao Yao replied that if she touched the illusion, it would disappear. According to her logic, the guy shouldn't have disappeared until the girl touched him. Wu Yao Yao loved Bai Qiao with all her heart. The girl did not want to let this marvelous illusion disappear. At that moment, the mysterious toy of the chick was lying on the floor. Yao Yao stepped on this toy. The shell cracked. The toy almost broke. The chick flew upwards, unable to withstand Wu Yao Yao's pressure. Slipping on the toy, the girl fell. She flew straight at Bai Chao. In the next instant, the girl's head practically landed in the lad's lap. Wu Yao Yao's hair was a millimeter away from Bai Chao's legs. The girl became nervous. Yao Yao's chick and Bai Chao were surprised by this situation and waited to see what would happen next. A loud scream was heard. The fledgling flew off to the floor. The girl hit the guy so hard it hurt, he could barely contain his voice. Wu Yao Yao thought that since she had touched Bai Chao, it would be over. The girl began to stir. She grabbed onto Bai Chao's legs and begged him not to disappear. Wu Yao Yao opened her eyes in surprise. She was lying on Bai Chao's lap. Wu Yao Yao stood up and started touching the guy. She didn't realize what it was. The girl kept on groping him even in places where it shouldn't be done. Wu Yao Yao finally realized that the person in front of her was the real Bai Chao, and not an illusion. The guy said that it was. Wu Yao Yao was very frightened. She was embarrassed by all her actions. The girl loudly began to call out to her mother and say that she was a liar for giving and believing that the person in front of her was not the real Bai Chao. Wu Yao Yao rushed upstairs to her room. The girl was without makeup, and in those clothes she was sure she would never get married. Auntie Chen said that the girl had deceived herself and her mother didn't say a word. Auntie Chen asked if Bai Chao was the one who had messed up all of this. Bai Chao didn't quite understand what Auntie was talking about. He was confused. Auntie Chen turned around and said that if the guy didn't confess, then there was no reason for him to go home today. The guy wondered if she was definitely not related to Tang Xian, because she was threatening just like the white-haired fox. Bai Chao's problem was back to square one. The guy was confused. He didn't understand how he could get along with Wu Yao Yao and give her the notes. Bai Chao went upstairs to Wu Yao Yao's room. He knocked on the door and asked if the girl was here. She was changing in your room and said the guy made a mistake. There was a sign hanging on the girl's door that said it was Wu Yao Yao's room, however. The girl asked the guy to look in the living room. At that second, the guy saw a red liquid flowing out from under Wu Yao Yao's door. The guy thought he saw blood. He was confused. The guy wasn't sure what to do in such a situation. He began to ponder where the blood might come from. The boy thought that the girl had decided to commit suicide. Bai Chao abruptly opened the doors to Wu Yao Yao's room. He shouted for the girl not to do so. The guy was stunned by what he saw in the room. He was numb. Wu Yao Yao sat unharmed on her bed, while Bai Chao burst into her room and told her not to. The girl was sitting in just her nightie. She blushed and became embarrassed. The guy was surprised that everything was okay, since he was sure something had happened to the girl. Wu Yao Yao grabbed her blanket with the piggy image on it. The girl covered herself with it and shouted that Wu Yao Yao was not in this room and he was mistaken. The guy crouched on the couch in the corner of the room. He watched this scene. The girl pulled her hood farther over her head to hide. The guy asked if Wu Yao Yao was feeling well. The girl had just a normal fever. Everything was fine. The doctor said she could go to school tomorrow. The girl lay curled up on the bed. Bai Chao walked into the room. He realized that the red liquid was just juice. The guy came closer to the bed. He asked if Wu Yao Yao had a cold and pointed to the spilled juice. The girl was very disturbed. She jumped out of bed in a flash and ran to look at the puddle. The girl was afraid that the juice might stain something. She hurried to see if everything was all right. The girl was holding a box of cupcakes. They were all in perfect order. Wu Yao Yao rejoiced and carried the treat straight to Bai Chao. She suggested that the guy try these delicious cupcakes. Bai Chao simply couldn't refuse her. He took one and brought it up to his mouth. Yao Yao's eyes lit up. She was impatient to know what the guy thought about the cupcakes. Bai Chao liked it very much. He asked if it was a new item from Auntie's store. He hadn't tried such things before. Wu Yao Yao proudly said that she was the one who baked them, and you couldn't buy such things at her mom's store. The girl was an honorary member of the pastry club. The guy slyly remarked that the girl had just said that she wasn't Wu Yao Yao, and is there really another honorable member in this club? The girl continued to pretend. She said that Wu Yao Yao asked Wu Yao Yao to give him the cupcakes. After all, she's not here. The guy reached out his hand to Wu Yao Yao and said, "After all, they are already college students. I need to stop playing these games." The girl said someone falls in love. Someone goes to the sea at night. The boy was surprised to hear such strange words. The girl turned around and said that this line was from a song, and that's what Wu Yao Yao wanted to tell him too. The guy was saddened to see how hard it was for Wu Yao Yao to go through all this. Wu Yao Yao continued humming the lines. Shugan Bei was blown by the wind from yesterday's cab. Bai Chao apologized. Wu Yao Yao replied that a lover doesn't need to apologize. The boy felt awkward at such words, but the girl quickly said that they were also lines from a song. Yao Yao asked how the guy was doing with Ning Yi. Bai Chao clearly did not expect such a question, he interjected. The guy replied that it was fine. Wu Yao Yao said that this is not the way to behave. She imagined what it would be like if Bai Chao was her boyfriend. In that case, there was no way the girl would have let him go to visit another girl, especially when that girl confessed her feelings. The boy awkwardly replied that he was asked to go to Wu Yao Yao's place. Wu Yao Yao smiled. She thought that Bai Chao had finally changed the subject. The girls needed a change of clothes as soon as possible. Bai Chao gathered his strength and decided to start a dialogue with Wu Yaoyao. He was about to say something to her, but something caught his eye behind his back. There sat Wu Yaoyao in a plaid. She was making strange noises and trembling. The boy thought she was crying again. Bai Chao became worried. He stood up and walked over to the girl. The guy tried to settle the situation. He couldn't think how to calm his friend down. Bai Chao hadn't said anything yet. He didn't understand why she was suddenly crying harder. The guy touched her cape. He suggested they talk privately. Bai Chao took hold of the plaid. He began to slowly pull it off the girl. Under the plaid, Wu Yaoyao's head showed. She was very embarrassed and surprised. The boy stared in surprise at what he saw under the plaid. Turns out Wu Yaoyao was just changing her clothes. She had already taken off her tank top. The girl was very embarrassed. She blushed all red and told the guy to close his eyes quickly. Eventually, the confusion between the guy and Wu Yaoyao seems to have disappeared thanks to the synopsis. Plus, Auntie Chen invited Bai Chao to work at the store on the weekend, and he had to accept. Obviously, all of this would cause the guy even more trouble. Bai Chao didn't understand why he didn't refuse the offer. Perhaps it was all because of fear. If one thought carefully, he had broken her daughter's heart a few days ago after all. On the other hand, Bai Chao had brazenly entered someone else's house, brazenly ate someone else's food, and brazenly took someone else's things, so it was hard to refuse. Walking home from Wu Yaoyao's, the guy saw Ningyi sitting in front of him. A red cat approached her. The girl really liked cats. She smiled and glowed. The girl stroked the cat. In the next moment, the code jumped onto Ningyi's lap. The cat began to climb up under the girl's clothes. She was squatting in the middle of the street. The animal reached all the way to Ningyi's face and purred loudly. The girl smiled and stroked the cat's head. Bai Chao approached a girl. He asked if she was going home. Ningyi didn't expect to see a guy on the street. The girl said she was going to. At this time, the cat saw the bag of food Bai Chao was carrying. The library was taking a break. Ningyi wanted to finish her book and come back. At that moment, the cat reached for the food. Behind him, the cat pulled the girl. She was frightened. The guy was very embarrassed. He was blushing all over. Ningyi fell straight onto his chest and clung tightly to it. At this moment, Ningyi's acquaintances were passing by, and they saw the scene. The guy got very embarrassed, trying to get out of the situation somehow. Bai Chao blushed very red. He didn't know what to do. Ningyi was snuggling against Bai Chao's chest at this time. A ginger cat climbed stubbornly upward between the boys. It came out near Wu Yaoyao's face. She turned away from what so it wouldn't hit her face. Bai Chao looked at the cheeky ginger cat in front of his face in surprise. Bai Chao gingerly took the cat by the scruff of its neck. The guy said that the cat didn't have to be mischievous. Ningyi suggested that he might just be hungry. The guy offered to escort Ningyi to the library, with Mandarin watching them from around the corner. The guys gave the cat a cupcake. Ningyi refused Bai Chao's offer because it was already late. She told him to go home. Tangerine wrote to Tangxian. She informed her friend that the guy was definitely carrying the Wu Yaoyao family's package. However, it didn't matter because they needed to put their plans into action. Tangerine was surprised that the guys were acting so and embarrassed. They are a couple. A cat approached the girl. It was Tangerine's cat. She said he did a good job today. The cat's name was Uke Takabana. The girl stroked his head. The cat was a freelance member of the student union. The guy finally made it to his house. It was already noon. Bai Chao was very tired. He plopped down on his bed. In front of his eyes, Bai Chao saw his sister. He called out to her. The girl was late. She and her classmates had gone on a picnic, so she was going to stay the night at a friend's house and would be home tomorrow. Bai Chao was even upset that his sister had left and he was alone. However, his mood quickly changed, and he exclaimed that the holiday of solitude had arrived, and with it, the holiday of video games. While Bai Chao was drinking a soda and eating chips, someone called him at his apartment. Bai Chao thought that it was his sister and she had forgotten something. Bai Chao walked to the door and opened it. A pink t-shirt appeared in front of his eyes. Tangxian came to Bai Chao's house. She said hello. The girl was holding a bag of food. Bai Chao was very surprised and was dousing himself with sweat. He thought the best solution would be to slowly close the door. Bai Chao had already almost completely closed the door with Tangxian staring at him intently. She wasn't happy and asked if he had finished his recheck. The girl reminded him that someone had important things to do today. Bai Chao pretended to see his sister. He said he hadn't seen her for a couple minutes, and Lulu had already grown so much. This scene was watched in amazement by a neighbor who was passing by. The woman said hello. Tangxian forcefully opened the door. She demanded to let her in. After all, the girl has to make sure the guy is willing to go with her. Bai Chao replied that he was not allowed to do so, and Lulu forbade the girls to enter. Bai Chao only noticed that he was being greeted. He was very embarrassed and tried to keep the chairwoman out. The girl was about to enter the apartment. Bai Chao said hello to Auntie Shu. The woman laughed and said that he had a very pretty girl. The guy started making excuses. He said it was all a mistake. Bai Chao said that Tang Xian was not his girlfriend. Tang Xian was very saddened by this guy's words. Auntie Shu said that the girl had already given him away. There was nothing to be ashamed of. The boy was very surprised. The girl's acting out again. The neighbor said she wouldn't complain to the guy's parents. The guy took Tang Xian home and replied that they were just fooling around and wouldn't bother Auntie anymore. The door to Bai Chao's apartment slammed shut. The boy was surprised by the cunning of this white-haired vixen. The girl smiled. She was sure she hadn't said a word. The guy got angry and claimed that she had taken control of him and her aunt with one scene. The girl sat back in her chair, saying that she had wasted her energy. Tang Xian woke up early today to remind the deputy of his business and buy cookies at the same time, and still got judged by the deputy. Tang Xian took out the cookies she had bought on her way to Bai Chao's place. She started eating it seductively and offered the guy a taste. It was just another stunt to take a couple ugly pictures with Bai Chao. Well, the guy was already a hardened fighter, and if the girl wanted to mess with him, she was too late. Tang Xian said it was a very expensive cookie and offered to try it. The girl held the cookie in her mouth. The guy was surprised and asked if he had to taste it straight from his mouth. He was already reaching for Tang Xian's mouth. While the girl at this point ate the cookie herself, the guy was dumbfounded. The girl smiled slyly and said the cookies were gone. Bai Chao didn't understand where the cookies had disappeared to. He wondered. The girl wondered if Bai Chao would guess where it had gone. Tang Xian said the cookie behind her ear and reached there. The cookie was really behind her ear. The girl had pulled a trick. Bai Chao thought that the girl was talking about her ear. He leaned very close to her. A cookie fell out of Tang Xian's hands. Bai Chao was very close to the girl. He got all flushed and embarrassed. Tang Xian felt the same way. The girl didn't know what to say to the guy. The situation was very awkward. Girl Tan was standing next to Guy Bai. She still couldn't believe she missed the cookies on the floor. The protagonist looked at the girl standing in front of him with great surprise. The girlfriend also felt very uncomfortable. There was a long and uncomfortable pause. The girl wanted to justify herself somehow, but ended up only looking at the guy in silence. There was a very long and uncomfortable pause. You could hear water dripping from the faucet. The girl, still in a frozen position, stood beside the protagonist. She felt awkward. Here still, the girlfriend turned around and sat down on the chair. Bai lowered himself and sat down on the floor. The schoolgirl could not understand why she got into such an awkward moment, although she wanted to show the guy only a trick. After a long pause, the main character said awkwardly and quietly to himself that it was his fault. After a brief pause, the guy explained that he thought the girl had a cookie behind her ear. The guy, still sitting with his back to his girlfriend, told her it was getting pretty late. Then Bai added that he would only go and change. The girl was silent in response. Then the girlfriend grabbed the guy's hand. She didn't want him not to leave. The girl turned shyly to the guy and called him deputy. The girlfriend called the guy heartless since he kissed her, and now he already wants to run away from her. Bai started to get angry. He replied that the girl was the one bullying him. The girl said that according to a family tradition her mother told her, she would have to live her whole life with the guy who kisses her. The protagonist replied that it was all nonsense. After that, Bai Chao and the schoolgirl decided to walk to the construction store together. The guy asked the girl why they should go out on their own and buy a closet when they can order one. The girlfriend explained that they will use the cabinet for a long time, and therefore it is better to choose it in person. The girl suspected the protagonist and wanted to show him the new closet. The schoolgirl saw that the guy wasn't there. She couldn't understand where he had gone because she had only turned away for a second. The girlfriend noticed a guy standing next to a blue glowing balloon. Bai told the balloon that he had a secret that he didn't tell anyone. The main character, full of inspiration, told the balloon that he is the Moon Lord. The girl was filming him on her phone. The inspired guy called himself the Lord of Light and Darkness and the God of Eternal Night. Tang asked with interest to the guy what the God of Eternal Night was capable of. The guy kept moving his hand around the blue ball and talking to it. Bai said in a loud voice that he turns blood into wine and his voice is like a knife. The protagonist ran his hands around the ball to achieve some effect. Bai Chao said that when he falls asleep, an all-consuming darkness covers the earth. The guy turned to the people in the store and said it was only a fraction of his power. The girlfriend asked the guy what else he could say, and only now did the guy notice that the girl was filming him on her phone. Bai Chao asked the girl in a tragic voice if she had filmed the whole thing. The girlfriend happily confirmed it. A girl told a guy that he had a lot of interesting stuff on his phone. The protagonist said he begged her to delete everything. The girlfriend suggested that the guy play a game with her. He would have to guess something. The schoolgirl thought for a moment. She was still hesitating whether the guy should ask the question. The girl decided to herself that Bai, with her humble mind, would never think of it. The girlfriend replied to the guy that if he wanted it bad enough, he would do it himself. Bai Chao decided to quickly change the topic of conversation. He started showing his companion various cabinets. The girl watched the guy's behavior carefully. She was still silent. The girl sat down on the couch and beckoned the guy over to her. She wanted him to look at her. The girlfriend sitting on the couch said cheerfully that she felt good sitting on it. The protagonist looked at the seated girl and couldn't take his eyes off her. The girl looked at her friend with bewilderment and asked what he thought. The guy was surprisingly silent. After a short pause, Bai Chao said that he was fine. He thought to himself that his girlfriend was always sitting in the middle of nowhere. The girl looked at it and said confidently that they would take this couch. Bai noticed that the sofa cost almost 1,000 yuan. The guy added that the student council couldn't afford such a purchase. The girlfriend said they're just going to cut the literary club's budget. The protagonist asked her interlocutor what she didn't like about the literary club. The guy and the girl ended up buying this expensive cabinet, and the student council was left with no money. The guy felt especially cozy after purchasing the couch. Eventually, the main character had a strange thought in his head. He was ashamed of it. Bai was too embarrassed to tell the girl directly. He realized that he and his acquaintance Tang Xin would never be friends again. The guy knew that if he kept silent, he would never have peace in his life, so he turned to the girl Tan. The girlfriend looked at the guy carefully and with interest and answered him. The guy was very shy. He still couldn't start a conversation with the girl. Tan had already started to look at her interlocutor excitedly and impatiently. The girl froze in anticipation, already beginning to be annoyed by the guy's awkwardness. The girlfriend testily and with great interest continued to look at Bai Chao. Tan's girlfriend was sitting next to a table with a guy she kept wanting to know what he wanted to tell her. Bai Chao couldn't get a word out of his mouth, so the girl thought that the guy had finally gotten it. The girl demanded cheerfully of the guy to finally start talking. The protagonist shyly said that the girl should understand him. He was still stammering his words. Determined, the guy told the girl that she still hadn't given him the game called Signal Fire. The girl felt like a cold shower had been poured on her. Then the girl said excitedly that she didn't hear something in the guy's words. Forcing a smile out of herself, the girl asked the guy to repeat his words. Bai once again reminded his girlfriend of his game called Signal Fire. The girlfriend grabbed the protagonist by the scruff of the neck and asked if he did it on purpose. Bai said, as if nothing had happened, that he was demanding what he had honestly earned. Tan replied to her friend that he is a bastard who plays with a young girl's feelings. In a grave voice, the girl asked the guy what color his blood might be. The guy calmly replied that it was not good to kill people. He also added that people who died wrongfully turn into ghosts. Such words cheered up the girl a bit. She replied that she didn't even believe the guy's words. At this time, Tan pulled her phone out of her tank top. She wanted to show the guy the video. The girlfriend told the guy that she could kill him a little otherwise. She showed him a video of Bai in a store calling himself Moon Lord. The girl turned her phone on full volume. The guy was listening to a video of himself, and it freaked him out. Tan held the main character by his clothes and showed him a video on his phone. The protagonist was frightened. He grabbed the phone with his hand so that no sound could be heard. He turned to his girlfriend and called her Madam President. The guy asked the girl to delete this video. He wanted to explain her reasons. Bai told his girlfriend with tears in his eyes that his life was already hard enough. The girlfriend dreamily told the guy that she would look at his behavior first. Tan told her friend that although they are not on a date, but girls need to give gifts, the guy was surprised at such a suggestion. Unexpectedly, the main character handed the girl a beautiful and fluffy fox. The girlfriend was very much surprised by such a gift from a guy and wondered. Bai explained to the girl that she is a foxy girl. She even resembles her in personality. Tan did not like such a gift, and she showed the guy a smartphone with a video of him. The protagonist shouted that he didn't mean anything bad. The girlfriend smiled slyly and said she was listening intently to the protagonist. Bai began to inspirationally explain to the girl that the white light of the chanterelle symbolized a pure heart and a beautiful soul. Afterwards, the guy said that the vixen in general is beautiful and very cool. The girl put her hand on the lad's arm in which he held the vixen. The main character, along with his girlfriend, held a foxglove in their raised arms and looked at it. Girl Tan gradually began to like this gift from the protagonist. Bai told the girl that the vixen looked very cute, and the girlfriend wondered. Tan said she liked the smartphone video, but if the guy really asks for it, she'll choose the vixen. The protagonist decided that things are going well so far. The girl took the vixen in her arms and asked if the guy had redeemed himself. The main character had a peculiar psychology. He thought the girl liked the same things he did. The main character was very happy today. He was lucky enough to defeat the white fox. Boyfriend Bai has been taking his acquaintance girl Tan shopping throughout the morning. The main character and his girlfriend went to different places. He wanted to make a nice girl. At the end, the guy even got his girlfriend into a coffee shop and treated her to a tasty drink. Girlfriend called the guy a deputy and said he was a lucky guy. The main character reminded the girl that she herself said she was tired and hungry. Tan looked at the guy very romantically and asked if he remembered how they met. The girlfriend reminded the guy that he gave her flowers, but he wasn't carrying them for her. Bai Chao was silent as he continued to consume his food. The girl asked him to elaborate. The protagonist perfectly remembered the story of the flowers. He just didn't remember who they were meant for. Girl Tan kept asking the guy about the bouquet of flowers. The girlfriend was still very much interested in who the main character was carrying the flowers to. Bai Chao replied sadly to the girl that he didn't want to talk about it. After a long pause, the girl said she was sorry. The guy calmed her down and said it was okay. Suddenly, the main character said that he too had a question he wanted to ask the girl. Bai Chao clarified with the girl if she didn't mind him asking her something. The girl put the glass with the drink on the table and said she didn't mind the questions from the guy. Tan looked at the guy and said she needed a consulting fee. The guy surprisingly told the girl that she had not paid him anything. Tan told the guy that he had not asked her. The girl offered the guy that she would buy him a drink if he could answer his question. If she didn't answer, then Bai would buy her a drink. The protagonist said it would be more logical to do the opposite. Lavushka tapped the guy's foot under the table and asked if she should ask or not. Tan clarified that the choice was now up to the protagonist. Bai thought the girl was a cunning vixen. The protagonist began to remember his first meeting with the girl. The guy said it was raining very hard at the time of the meeting. The main character was standing outside a store, with flowers and an umbrella, and that's when he noticed the girl. The guy stood and silently looked at the girl. She seemed very strange to him. Bai saw a girl standing next to him in the rain at the bus stop, and couldn't understand what was wrong with her. The schoolgirl didn't seem to notice that she was soaking wet. Bai pointed out that the girl didn't even have an umbrella. The guy could not understand why the girl was standing there. He decided to approach her. The protagonist held out his umbrella to the schoolgirl and shut her out of the rain. The guy asked with interest to the girl where she lived. She remained silent. Bai Chao told the girl that he could walk her home. Tang looked at him with interest. At the same moment, the guy noticed that the girl had tears on her face. Sitting in a cafe, Tan told the guy that he was asking a very personal question. She added that she wanted to drink lemonade. The protagonist realized that the girl knew exactly what he was going to ask her, so he got up and went to get drinks. Tang cheerfully and happily looked after the protagonist. She was glad that she was able to make him obey. Bai brought and placed 2 bottles of Coca-Cola on the table. He told the girl that these were the fruits of her unrivaled cunning. Tan said that if her mother knew what the boy was giving her, she would break his knees. The schoolboy shouted to his girlfriend that there was no limit to her impudence. The girl holding the liquor bottle in her hand said she would give the guy a chance to get even. Bai Chao asked her girlfriend if she had some devious plan. The girl grabbed the guy's hand and told him to answer all her questions. Tan asked the schoolboy if he was okay with losing, or if he had just fallen in love already. The schoolgirl eagerly asked the guy what he was going to tell her. The main yelled to her girlfriend to get away from him. Bai was sitting on a chair and the girl sat on top of him. She was recounting the event of last week. Tan asked the guy carefully why he didn't respond to the girl's declaration of love. Bai Chao was astonished at such a question. He had not expected to hear it now from the girl. The guy thought to himself that the girl hadn't asked him who had confessed to her, so he could just nod or shake his head. Looking closely at her girlfriend, the guy told her that absolutely nothing happened. The protagonist thought to himself that he had done well and reminded the girl that she had lost. Tan sipped slowly from the Coke bottle and told the guy she was sorry. The girl slipped the guy a bottle of Coca-Cola and told him he deserved it. Bai told his girlfriend that she had already had her drink. Tang replied that that was the deal. The guy realized that the girl did it on purpose. The girlfriend took the fox in her arms and said it was time for her to go home. Tan told the guy to drink Coke at home because she felt uncomfortable drinking it here. The protagonist stood for a long time and looked silently at the bottle. The girl had already left the cafe. The guy left the unfinished bottle on the table and turned around and started to walk away. The next morning, the protagonist woke up in his home in bed. Bai said to himself that he could sense the demon living inside him. Lying on the bed and looking up at the ceiling, the boy said the demon was out for blood. Bai thought to himself that he would like some soup. Bai decided that he would get up and look for his food. He thought it was bad for him to be without his sister Lulu. Suddenly, the protagonist heard as if someone had entered the apartment. Bai happily ran to the exit door. He realized that Lulu had come back to save him. A girl came into the room. The guy noticed she had dyed herself pink and brought a bag of food. The girl romantically, cheerfully, and joyfully wished the guy good morning. The protagonist, stunned, silently stared at the guest in amazement. Bai noted that the girlfriend had changed a lot in appearance, even though he hadn't seen her for only a couple of days. The guy asked the girl when she had time to become a pink-haired demon. The girl excitedly told her brother that he was supposed to help her at work today. The girlfriend looked at her brother and asked him with interest what he could tell her about her costume. Bai very shyly said that he was surprised because a girl just picked up and came to his house. The girlfriend slapped the head character and told him he was a fool. The girl took off her shoes and ran into the kitchen. She said she brought the guy some muffins. The guest asked the guy where his sister was. The guy told the girl that mom and sister are in the bedroom, dad is in the kitchen. He said he would call them right away. The girl was surprised. Bai explained that his parents had 2 days off in a row, which was why they had come. The guest got a little excited. The girl said that she thought the guy was only home with his sister, so she brought him 2 cupcakes. Bai replied that his parents wouldn't be upset. After that, the guest headed for the exit and said that she would wait for the guy downstairs. The protagonist decided that he would not give just an opportunity for the girl to escape. Bai grabbed his girlfriend and turned around to the next room as if to call out to his parents and sister. The guy was yelling in the direction that a classmate had come to visit him and wanted to check on his parents. The girl was very much frightened. She wanted very much to run away. Tears appeared in her eyes. The main character told the girl that he was just kidding, his parents are not home and his sister is away. A classmate got really mad at a guy and told him he was an idiot. Suddenly the girl asked the guy to give her his hand. The girlfriend grabbed the guy's arm and angrily yelled at him that she was going to bite him to death. A classmate bit the guy's hand very viciously. After that, he screamed. After that, the protagonist along with his girlfriend went to a restaurant. The girl dressed up especially the guy for work in the restaurant. She picked out a suit for him. Bai Chao was dressed in a vampire costume but was wearing the restaurant's signature apron. A guy asked his girlfriend to bite him in the other hand next time. The girl replied that she would not bite him at all if he behaved well. The main character smiled and told the girl that even though it was all in jest, it was still scary. The classmate also smiled happily at her friend and laughed softly. Bai Chao smiled cheerfully at his girlfriend as she adjusted his clothes and had something to say. In complete seriousness, the girl looked at her friend and said no one was messing with him. The guy and the girl approached the manager and she greeted them cheerfully. The manager's name was Miss Lee. She asked the girl who the guy was that came with her. Reluctantly, the girl tapped the guy's leg and he started talking. Bai greeted Lee's manager. The girlfriend said that it was her classmate who came to work part-time and owed her mom money. The protagonist felt that he was some kind of slave. The manager asked the girl where she had been for 2 weeks, and it turned out that she had fallen in love. Lee's manager told the guy and girl that the uniform suits them very well and they look like a real couple. The classmate turned aside and said calmly that she and the guy were just friends. Bai got excited in his mind. He noticed that the manager's face was the same as the one of the girl he knew, Tang. The protagonist decided to himself that it would be best to play the fool. After that, the manager hugged the guy and girl and told them not to worry and Boss Chung wouldn't find out anything. Manager Lee then sent the guy and his girlfriend into the kitchen and said she wouldn't bother them. In parting, the manager told the protagonist and his girlfriend that Boss Chung had prepared something for them. Then the manager left and slammed the door with her. She wished the guy and girl had fun. After a long pause, the girl asked the guy what he thought of the manager's words. A classmate asked Baya if they looked good together. The protagonist looked at the woman he was talking to and said that there was just a slight misunderstanding. The guy replied that if they came to work, they should start. He asked his girlfriend what their aunt had prepared for them. Lavushka looked to the side and noticed a bag of cream lying on the table. The classmate then took the cream packet in her hands and decided to play a prank on the guy. A classmate quietly approached the boy from behind and asked what their mom had cooked. Suddenly, the girl was very much surprised. She couldn't even say anything. The protagonist, along with his girlfriend, looked at the table in amazement. The girl, together with the boy Bai, looked surprised at the box that stood on the table. After a while, a loud gasp of surprise escaped her girlfriend. After that, the girl came to her senses and asked the guy what he was surprised about. The guy asked the girlfriend if she'd seen her face. The guy asked his girlfriend if she was surprised by this task. In front of them was a box with a cake. Inside was a picture of the main character with his girlfriend. A classmate picked up the photo and said she didn't see anything unusual. The girl warned her friend that if he didn't help, he would be fired. She also added that the work assignment was absolutely normal. Girlfriend was picking up baking supplies. Boyfriend questioned if what she said was true. A classmate informed the boyfriend that she told him the truth. She urged a friend to start cooking. The girlfriend asked the guy if he had ever made a cake before. Bai replied that he had never made a cake before, so let the girl call the shots. After answering, the girl took a spoon and started spreading the berry cake cream. The girl began to think slyly to herself about her devious plan. The girlfriend decided to quietly sneak up on the guy first and squirt him with cream. She will then take a picture of the protagonist on her phone while he's soaked. The girlfriend led the guy over to the table and told him it wouldn't be a big deal. The girl stood behind the guy and told him to get ready, at which time the cream leaked out of her hands and fell to the floor. The protagonist got a little flustered. The girl warned him that she was going to cuss a little. The classmate felt that the distance was now perfect. She prepared to attack the guy. The girl didn't feel her hands were nearly empty, and she punched the guy in the face. Bai was very unpleasantly surprised when the girl knocked him in the face with all her might. The protagonist asked the girl what she was doing since she promised to teach him how to cook. The girl was very much surprised. She remembered that the cream had just been in her hands. After that, the classmate didn't notice as she stepped her foot into the cream on the floor. The girlfriend slipped awkwardly on a pile of cream and started to fall to the floor. At the last moment, the girl grabbed the guy from behind by the belt on his pants. The main character was very much surprised. He didn't understand what had happened. The girlfriend struggled to keep her balance. She was still holding on to the guy. Suddenly, Manager Lee came in. She asked the guests if they needed help. The manager noticed how the girl couldn't stand on her feet and was holding on to the guy from behind. Bai yelled to the girlfriend that his pants were coming off. Everything that was happening was completely incomprehensible to the manager. She decided to leave. Then the manager apologized and closed the door. The guy yelled at Miss Lee that she got it all wrong. The girl was very much frightened because of everything that had happened. She sat on the floor and cried. A classmate got scared because Manager Lee thought something bad. She added that it was all the main character's fault. The girl asked the guy resentfully if he wouldn't comfort her. Bai Chao replied to the girl without any emotion that she didn't need to be consoled. After that, the girl decided to slather the guy with cream one more time and grabbed the bag. The girlfriend, along with a bag of cream, lunged at the guy and said it was his own fault. Bai didn't understand this change in the girl's mood. He wondered if she was faking it. The girlfriend said she wanted to take some pictures with him. Bai replied to the classmate that she was a bad villain if she revealed her plan. A classmate wanted to sprinkle cream on her boyfriend. She didn't notice that the tip of the packet wasn't cut off. The girlfriend didn't notice the cream from the package suddenly splashing on her. The girl was very offended. She didn't understand why this had happened to her. Girlfriend said she thinks she's the devil, but for some reason she's the one who gets it all the time. The main character got distracted. He noticed some trouble in the kitchen. The guy called the girl. Bai pointed out the hot food inside the stove to his girlfriend and asked if it was supposed to be like this. The classmate was very much frightened. She pulled the protagonist towards the exit from the kitchen. After that, the girlfriend threw the guy out and closed the door and said she would handle it herself. Bai Chao called his girlfriend named Yao Yao and asked that she not leave him. The main character still wanted to get into the kitchen. He noticed smoke coming from under the door. The guy wondered to himself if this was what his part-time job in the kitchen looked like. Suddenly, someone called out from the side of the protagonist. He was very much surprised. Some new girl standing nearby asked Bai Chao if he was busy. The stranger told the guy that she didn't remember him and asked him how long he had been working here. Bai Chao said he was just a part-time employee. The girl suggested that the protagonist should just chat. The guy replied that he was not allowed to do that. The girl told the guy that she wasn't doing anything and added that he looked like her first love. Bai Chao fearfully replied to the girl that it was only her imagination. The stranger told the guy that he wasn't getting paid much here. She asked if he could spare some time for her after work. The girl pulled the boy against her and asked him if he agreed. Bai wondered if this was a new plot twist. The protagonist wondered he didn't realize if the stranger could be a fraud. At that time, Yao Yao came up behind him and grabbed him. She asked what he was doing. Yao Yao told the protagonist that he was already very much wanted by Manager Lee. Bai Chao told his girlfriend he was busy because they had a client. Yao Yao looked at the guy, told him to hurry up and get away from here. The girl customer got up from the table and asked Yao Yao who she was. After that, Yao Yao hugged the protagonist from behind and said that she was his girlfriend. The customer got up from her seat and said she would leave. At that time, Yao Yao was still standing with the guy. The girl jumped on the guy and asked him what he was doing here. She said she heard the whole conversation. Suddenly, Yao Yao calmed down and told the guy that he would have ruined his whole life if she didn't intervene now. The girlfriend patted the guy on the head and told him what to do if he needed money. Yao Yao said he could ask her for money. She only wants to spend time together. Bai Chao stood up and said confidently that he had no problem with finances. After that, Yao Yao told her friend that she was happy to help him if there were any problems. At that time, a woman entered the room and was surprised. The woman noticed the boyfriend and girlfriend arguing with each other. Bai told the girlfriend that she could give the extra money to the needy. The woman looked at the protagonist and his girlfriend with a smile and said that they had already made up and suggested they go out to dinner. The woman then sat down, smiled, and said she was giving them a treat. Then the guy and his girlfriend went out to dinner. The woman told them that they had done a good job. The woman asked the guy how his first day on the job went if they got the cake fixed. Bai said it went pretty well. Yao Yao called the woman mom and said they could make the main character a mascot. The woman asked her daughter if she was tired because she hadn't slept a wink all night. Yao Yao replied sure she slept well. She asked the woman how she could know. Mom said that she got up at night to drink water and noticed her daughter was awake. Yao Yao was thinking about what she should wear before meeting the main character. The unexpected girl was shy. She turned aside and said she had been watching movies all night. The woman wanted to tell her daughter something. Yao Yao remembered lying down before going to bed and thinking that her mother would give her a ride to the protagonist's house. After that, the girl got very angry and told her mother not to say anything else. Yao Yao warned the woman that if she didn't shut up, she would jump out of the car. The mother said she'd keep quiet. They then drove into town to a restaurant. The woman said she was going to look for a parking lot, and the school children could go and find a free table. Yao Yao replied cheerfully to the woman that she and her boyfriend would do just that. Afterward, the mother smiled at her daughter and told her not to let her down. The woman waved her hand and pulled away. The daughter suspected her mother was up to something again. The mother then texted her daughter that it was almost impossible to find a seat at the restaurant on the weekend, so she was going home. The protagonist asked his girlfriend what happened. She immediately hid her phone. Yao Yao replied that everything was fine. She reminded the guy that he still wasn't on his phone today. The protagonist calmly replied that he was no longer of age to play games. He also added that it was unlikely that anyone would need him today. The classmate wondered. She assumed that today the guy was supposed to see his girlfriend Nin, and the protagonist along with his girlfriend found a place for themselves in a restaurant. Yao Yao placed the order and showed it to the waitress. The guy was on the phone at the time. The waitress asked the girl what her companion would be eating while she noticed a box of cake on the window. After that, the waitress didn't ask any more questions and said that she would make everything better. Yao Yao was very surprised. Meanwhile, the boy was chatting with his sister. Lulu promised her brother that when she came back, she would cook him a lot of delicious food. Bai replied that if he continued like this, he would be nothing. Lulu replied confidently to the protagonist that she would be much better off that way. The sister warned the lad that otherwise he might start twirling around the wily vixens. The girlfriend sat and watched the guy carefully. She couldn't understand who he was talking to. Suddenly, a girl named Xiao Yuan ran up to her sister's phone and greeted the protagonist. Xiao Yuan complained to the guy that his sister Lulu wants to leave them and come back to him early. Then the conversation broke off. The girl sat there and was silent suddenly. Yao Yao told the guy that his phone caller had a SES complex. The guy thanked his girlfriend for the compliment. The classmate handed him the dish and told him to eat more vegetables. After that, the protagonist along with his girlfriend began to arrange the food on their plates. Yao Yao then picked and put some lettuce in her meat dish. The main character told his girlfriend that he was somehow not surprised. Yao Yao consumed her food. She asked a classmate what was wrong. The main character told his girlfriend that she was very picky. The girl consumed her dish and asked the guy with surprise what was the big deal. The girlfriend got to her feet and had something to say to the determined guy. Yao Yao smiled and winked at the guy. She said that she was still growing. At this time, the main character also stood up. He noticed that the girl was much shorter than him. Yao Yao suddenly got very angry and called her friend stupid. A classmate yelled to a friend that he would regret it. The protagonist could not understand why the girl was angry since he did not say anything. And at that time, a waitress came up to them from the side. The guy and girl looked over and saw that the waitress was taking a picture of them. For a memento next to her was a birthday poster. The guy and his girlfriend were surprised. The waitress explained to the guests that it was their tradition. Then the waitress asked the boyfriend and girlfriend if they needed to start singing right away. Bai wanted to explain that it wasn't his or his girlfriend's birthday. Then suddenly the protagonist began to guess. He looked at the windowsill. Bai saw the cake box. He realized why the waitress thought they were celebrating a birthday. The guy wanted to tell the waitress that she was wrong at this time. Yao Yao said she liked everything. The girl kicked the guy with all her might under the table to shut him up. The girl smiled at the waitress and said that this cake was for another event. She asked the woman to cut it. The protagonist waited with surprise and excitement for the waitress to cut the cake. The guy saw that the cake was very beautiful with his and his girlfriend Yao Yao's figure on top of it. Yao Yao jumped up and shouted very happily that she had known the protagonist for almost 947 days. Then the girl added with a smile that she was having a lot of fun. Bai Qiao was surprised at this behavior of his girlfriend. He couldn't believe that she counted the days in such detail. After that, the guy thought to himself for a bit and laughed. After the restaurant, the guy along with his girlfriend went for a walk down the street. Yao Yao consumed the ice cream with gusto and looked at the pictures of her with her boyfriend. The main character tells his girlfriend that today's ice cream is much tastier than the one from last week. The girl was pleased to say that this ice cream is the best in the universe. Then suddenly an exciting conjecture struck her classmate sharply. Yao Yao asked the guy if he was going to say something hurtful to her, if he wanted to promise her that they would remain best friends. The girl said she didn't understand anything and asked the guy to explain it to her. Bai Chao calmly told the girl that he couldn't understand one thing. The protagonist asked the surprised girlfriend what she even liked about him. Yao Yao hesitated and became silent. She looked at the main character for a long time. The girlfriend asked the guy why he was asking her such an embarrassing question. The girl compared the current situation to how a salesman wouldn't sell her favorite book. Yao Yao licked some ice cream and said that she would answer the guy's question. The girl said she wanted to know something very much in return from the guy. Yao Yao decided to ask the protagonist about his relationship with his girlfriend Ning, and the girlfriend fell silent. She was very worried and couldn't continue talking. Yao Yao looked at the protagonist and started to check with him about his relationship with Ning, and the girl asked the guy if he was having an affair with girlfriend Nin, and the girl Yao Yao sat pensively. She realized that she could not her feelings not see, not touch. The schoolgirl's feelings couldn't even be understood by any behavior. The student felt that feelings are like an arrow on a scale. If the arrow moves, it is possible to get closer to the person. If the arrow is standing, it is just a normal, friendly relationship. The girl thought she felt that if the balance in feelings is disturbed, there are consequences. Yao Yao clearly visualized the main character's feelings being completely overridden. The girl wondered what would happen if one side outweighed the other. Yao Yao realized with consternation that if one side outweighed the other, there would be no friendship. The girl remembered the main character and realized that friendship would become something else. Quite a few people in the world believe that everything has a reason when partners like something certain about each other. Then the scales are off. It often happens that people get together for ordinary, everyday reasons. Bai Chao was sitting next to a girl and didn't understand why she loved him. The protagonist is an ordinary guy and he did not save his girlfriend from death. But it's not just world savers and princesses who fall in love. Ordinary love is the fruit of people's daily lives and the aggregate of little things. The girl remembered sitting across from her classmate. She decided that love was the result of everything they did, every day. Yao Yao couldn't remember exactly when the main character seemed handsome to her. The girl thought about it and wanted to remember exactly how her relationship with the main character had started. The schoolgirl thought about it and realized that she couldn't change anything. The girl imagined as if she had touched a large bubble with her finger. Yao Yao felt that there was nothing else she could do, and she fell in love. A classmate asked the protagonist if he had a love relationship with his girlfriend Nin, and the guy asked his girlfriend what she had just told him. Yao Yao told him that she wasn't even angry at first because he rejected her. The girlfriend thoughtfully told the guy that they couldn't be friends forever. The girl told her friend that it would be harder and harder to talk about it. Bai listened to her attentively. The girlfriend told the protagonist that everyone told her not to rush into a confession. Yao Yao told her classmate that there's a chance as long as he doesn't hate her. Bai asked his girlfriend if she believed he had a girlfriend. A classmate patted the guy on the head and asked if he took her for a fool. Yao Yao, sitting on the bench, told the guy that she was much calmer now. Then Yao Yao told the guy that he couldn't have fallen in love with some girl 2 days after the confession, and he didn't text her back. The protagonist turned away. He replied to a classmate that she could not deny that he is together with Ning, and Yao Yao hugged Bai Ya and threatened the guy that she could find out that he was lying to her. The protagonist got fed up with the girl's words and yelled at her to calm down. The girl put her arm around the guy's shoulder and said, "Let it be." Yao Yao told her classmate not to complain to her later if something happened between him and his girlfriend. Already, after all was said, the girl laughed angrily and incomprehensibly. A friend asked a classmate if he hated her. Bai replied that he had no reason to hate Yao Yao. The girlfriend said the conversation was over. She waved her hand at the guy and said they would see each other at school. The protagonist looked after the departing classmate for a very long time in silence. The guys got very angry and excited. He couldn't realize how his girlfriend figured it all out. At that time, the phone rang. The guy picked it up and heard that his sister had asked him to come over. The main character, along with his sister, went swimming in the hot springs. My sister hosted an online via cell phone stream for subscribers. The girl asked the guy to say hello to the audience. She wanted to also introduce her girlfriend. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yuan ran up and shouted cheerfully that she was also here. Xiao Yuan looked at the protagonist carefully and jumped into the water. After that, Xiao Yuan started splashing water on her girlfriend Lulu. Xiao shouted happily that the water was very hot. Lulu warned her friend that the broadcast was on. The protagonist asked his sister why she decided to start streaming. Lulu told wistfully that when she went to see him at college last week, she had met someone. Lulu remembered seeing 2 students running, and one of them wanting to take a picture of the other on her phone. The sister explained to her brother that the stream would be interesting and lift her spirits. The protagonist asked his sister why she wanted to cheer her up. Lulu tells the main character that she's been confessed to again recently. Such words struck the boy very hard. He was silent and didn't know what to say. Bai Chao looked very carefully and angrily at the Xiao Yuan girl who was bathing in the spring. The Xiao Yuan girl looked at the protagonist anxiously. She realized that he suspected her of something. After that, Xiao Yuan gestured to the guy that she wasn't guilty of anything. The guy asked his sissy if she turned down the offer. Lulu confirmed that she had said no. The protagonist praised his sister. The sister had her phone in her hands and wanted to ask her brother something. Lulu asked a very excited-looking guy if he liked anyone. The protagonist looked at his sister in surprise, and a long pause hovered. Bai Chao replied calmly that he didn't like anyone. He asked Lulu why she was asking him that. His sister told his brother that he had been very strange lately, and was even staying late at school more often. Bai replied that he had a lot of things to do in the student council. The protagonist noticed that the girl Xiao Yuan wanted to say something to him through gestures. Xiao's girlfriend told the protagonist that he should take more care of his health. Afterward, Xiao explained to the guy that she was very worried about his condition. The protagonist happily replied to the girl that he was fine and healthy. Xiao's girlfriend told the excited guy that she thought he was sick. Bai grabbed the girl and told her to stop messing with his head. He wanted to ask her something. The girl said she would confess everything. Xiao told her that Lulu had been acting strange lately, being late for school and running away after school. So Xiao thought that the protagonist was sick, and her sister was taking care of him. The guy was amazed at such words and guesses he heard from the girl. Xiao reminded the protagonist to watch his health. Then Xiao said that she was leaving, and for the guy to take care of his sister. The protagonist thought about it. He realized that something had happened to his sister. Then suddenly the protagonist was abruptly distracted by something from outside. The guy felt a familiar smell. He looked to the side and saw the girl Yao Yao standing next to him. Suddenly, the girl turned to the side and immediately spotted Bai Chao. The girlfriend got really excited. She greeted the guy and ran up to him. Yao Yao was very cheerful and happy looking at the guy. She was glad she met him. From joy, the girl even crouched on the ground. She wanted to jump into the arms of the protagonist. Yao Yao shouted to the guy that it was fate that they were able to meet here. The girl flew into the guy's arms from anticipation. She even closed her eyes. The protagonist pushed the girl away in flight with his hand. He was a little scared. The guy yelled to the girl there to calm down. Yao Yao calmly told the guy that she would examine him. The classmate scrutinized the guy. She saw that there were no hickeys on his body. The girl said thoughtfully that the swim trunks on the main character were definitely not Nin's taste, and after that the girl jumped up calmly and happily hugged the guy. Yao Yao told the protagonist that she thought she caught him in the act. Bai told her that it was rude. The boy heard his sister talking to Xiao Yuan not far away. Lulu asked Xiao what she had said to the boy to make him run away. The main character got the idea that it would be very bad if his sister saw Yao Yao. The guy looked at his girlfriend. He realized the two of them needed to hide. The protagonist grabbed his girlfriend's hands and confidently told her to follow him. Yao Yao was very surprised. She didn't understand where her boyfriend was taking her. The protagonist ran with his girlfriend into the nearest door and told her they needed to hide here. The guy even covered the girl's mouth with his hand so she wouldn't make a sound. The girl was very much surprised. She stood and remained silent. The guy at this time excitedly looked through the window at the door. Yao Yao stood closely pressed against the guy. She felt awkward. The girlfriend wanted to say something to the guy. She needed to get free of his hand. A classmate standing close to Bai Chao turned to the boy. The protagonist looked at his girlfriend with interest. He waited to see what she would tell him. The girl pointed the guy to the thermometer on the wall and said it was very hot in this room. The main character at this time watched through the window in the door as Xiao's girlfriend looked for him. Xiao Yuan walked down the corridor and said excitedly that the guy had to be around here somewhere. She decided to go look for him somewhere else. At this time in the big city, the girl was practicing sports in her home. The athlete was exercising while looking at the big TV on the wall. The athlete was fully engaged in the process, and she was not distracted by anything. Suddenly, the girl was distracted by the signal from her phone. She took the smartphone in her hands. The girl noticed an announcement of a stream from Lulu's channel. A recording of the broadcast was available. The athlete hesitated. She smiled happily, thinking about something of her own. The girls Xiao and Lulu were looking for the main character and remembered that he was definitely here. Xiao said that maybe the guy went to get food. Bai texted his sister on his phone. He said that he went to the bathroom and came back and the girls were gone. He asked them to come back. The sister wondered. She realized that they had been worried for nothing because the brother had simply gone to the bathroom. Lulu then told her girlfriend that they could simply go back and would go on not looking for a boyfriend. At this time, the protagonist noticed that his girlfriend had passed out due to a high fever. The guy held his girlfriend in his arms and said she was a lot of trouble. Bai Chao held his unconscious girlfriend in his arms and looked at her. Something caught the protagonist's attention after he examined the girl. The guy wondered what kind of swimsuit the girl was wearing. The protagonist took his girlfriend in his arms and confidently carried her toward the exit. The protagonist decisively opened the door and carried his girlfriend forward into the light. The guy very gently placed the unconscious Yao Yao on the bench. The main character thought happily to himself that he had saved the world again. Bai Chao noticed some white paper ship floating in the water next to him. The main character pulled the ship out of the water and began to read what was written on the paper. In the note, the girl wondered to the guy why he didn't stop by the spa. The guy turned to the side and saw a blonde-haired girl sitting there. He called her the White Fox. The main character got a little flustered. He looked sideways at his sister and her girlfriend. In order not to attract attention, the guy decided to get into the water unnoticed. Lulu noticed that her brother wanted to go somewhere and she asked where he was going. In an agitated voice, the protagonist told his sister that he needed to use the restroom immediately. Bai ran to the side and shouted to his sister that he couldn't take it anymore. Lulu was very disturbed by this behavior of the guy and looked at him for a long time. Bai panted out of the water. He was next to a girl with blonde hair. The main character called the girl the president and asked if she wanted to see him. The girl smiled back at the guy and said she just wanted to say hello. She asked if the guy missed her. The protagonist said fearfully that he was leaving if the girl didn't want anything. The interviewee was surprised by this behavior. She wanted the guy to still stay. The girl grabbed Bai's hand and told him to wait for her for a while. The girlfriend said in an intriguing voice that her towel wasn't holding up. The girl told the guy to help her or the towel would fall off completely. The girlfriend looked at the guy and asked if he could support the towel for her. Bai told the girl to go to the spa administration and get a clamp. The girl didn't like that answer, but she didn't want to let the guy go. In the end, the girlfriend decided not to hold the towel back on her own anymore. After that, the girl removed her hands and the towel fell off her body. The main character was still standing nearby. He decided to turn his head slightly and look at the girl. The girlfriend asked cheerfully and romantically to the guy where he was looking. The protagonist turned his head and looked at his towelless girlfriend. The guy saw a blonde-haired girl standing in one bathing suit. She asked him if he couldn't help himself. The main character picked up a towel and threw it at the girl. He yelled at her to cover herself. The girlfriend lifted the towel and told the guy that if he didn't want to look at her, she didn't care about the others. Suddenly, the protagonist heard his sister calling him somewhere nearby. The guy was scared. He didn't want Lulu to see him around with the girl. Sis walked around carefully looking and asking where her brother had gone. Suddenly, Lulu heard some noise off to the side. She decided to go there. The main character was very scared. He realized he had nowhere to hide. The guy panicked because he had nowhere to hide from his sister at all. The protagonist looked at his girlfriend. She was a little perplexed. The girl told the fun guy that if his sister was looking for him, he could call her. Suddenly, the guy grabbed the girl's hand. She was very much surprised. The girl asked wonderingly to the guy what he was doing. He pulled her with him into the water. After that, the protagonist, along with his girlfriend, hid under the water. The guy was still holding the girl's hand so she couldn't float up. After that, Bai put his hand over the girl's mouth so she couldn't say anything. Suddenly, footsteps sounded at the edge of the pool. It was the protagonist's sister. Lulu walked around and drilled her surroundings with an attentive gaze. She was looking for her brother. At this time, Yao Yao's girlfriend woke up and couldn't believe that her boyfriend was able to leave her here. A girl with a camera and glasses came up and she didn't understand what was going on here. The main character was hiding underwater with his girlfriend in hot springs from his sister. Lulu stood on the edge of the pool and scrutinized the water. Bai was underwater at this time with his girlfriend. He held her mouth to keep her quiet. The girl was silent, but she was already struggling because she was short of breath. The girlfriend was floundering in the water next to the guy. She was able to get his hand off her face. After that, the girl wrapped her legs around the guy. He didn't expect it. The girlfriend looked cheerfully at the protagonist. She decided to swim a little to the side. After that, the girl swam past the guy. He couldn't hold her. The girlfriend stopped in front of the guy. She wanted to say something to him. Through the water, the girl whispered that she was already running completely out of oxygen. Bai Chao looked at the girl with an incomprehensible expression. He did not know how to help her. The girlfriend showed the guy that she wanted to borrow oxygen from him. The girl looked slyly at the guy and wanted to kiss him underwater. The girlfriend brought her face close to the guy's face. He was very surprised. Suddenly, someone's hand appeared from above the water and headed towards the guy. Bai Chao was surprised and frightened. He couldn't understand who could have spotted him in the water. The protagonist realized that he would have to get out of the water. Now he had already imagined that he would see his sister. The girl was also very nervous. She didn't want anyone to see her with her boyfriend. The guy was pulled out of the water by a girl sitting on the shore in a yellow swimsuit. The girl on the shore asked with surprise to the girl from the water named Tang Xin how she could be there. The girl Tan was very much shy. She didn't know what to say to the question. Tan was able to quickly calm down and come to her senses. She coughed and decided to answer. Girl Tan said with pride and importance that she was the hostess. Tan explained that she had decided to give the guy a little tour here. After that, Tan took the guy's hand and told him that there was still a lot more to see around. Suddenly, a girl in a yellow swimsuit grabbed the guy's arm and told them to wait. The girl stood up and felt her legs getting stiff. She said Bai Chao is her boyfriend. The girl said she would keep the main character and Tan company on the walk. The girl said she wanted to talk to her boyfriend about something. She asked if it was okay with Tang Xin. Tang Xin told the girl with consternation and surprise that it was fine. Tan stepped aside and told the guy and girl that she would leave them alone for a minute. After that, the protagonist was left alone with his girlfriend. Girl Tan thought deeply and confidently to herself that she was very angry. Suddenly, Tan noticed someone sneaking around next to her, covering themselves with a large green bush, but she couldn't figure out what it was. The girl Yao Yao was sneaking around in disguise. She wanted to discover the protagonist. Thane watched the girl sneak past her with surprise and puzzlement. Tang realized that Yao Yao was so secretly peeking at the main character she thought it was a good idea. Bai asked the girl if she had seen where her sister was. The girl told the guy that she thought he needed her help. Bai thanked the girl for saving her. The girl asked where she could get a laminated paper cover made. Bai Chao was surprised at such a question. He pondered to tell his girlfriend. Then the guy told his girlfriend that there are such stores on campus. The guy didn't notice Yao Yao sneaking up on him while covering herself with a bush. The girl said she was on campus last week. Bai noticed a suspicious bush. The guy listened to what the girl was saying in a whisper. He asked Yao Yao what she was doing here. Yao Yao barely audibly crawled out from under the bush and began to gesture to the guy for a response. Smiling, the girl absolutely silently showed the guy that she was watching. Yao Yao gestured that she would follow the guy. He was surprised. The girl called out to the guy. He fearfully told her that he would think of something. Then he said he had to find his sister. 47. The boy got up and prepared to leave without noticing that Yao Yao came out from behind a bush. As the guy came past the bush, he was grabbed stealthily by his leg by Yao Yao. A Tan girl came over. She brought drinks on a tray and asked if the guy and his girlfriend wanted a drink. Tan was very surprised because of what she saw. She even dropped the drink tray. Tang watched surprised from the sidelines as the main character falls because he was grabbed by Yao Yao. The main character didn't understand why this happened where all his girlfriends came from at the same time. Bai looked at his girlfriend standing next to him and realized that the nightmare had returned. The hero thought fearfully to himself that a true horror had happened for him. Bai Chao saw that he was already quite close to his girlfriend. The protagonist nearly fell on his girlfriend's chest from behind. He was held back by Yao Yao and Tan. The guy yelled excitedly to the girls behind him to let him go. Tan yelled at the guy that if she let him go, he'd run away from her. Suddenly, the protagonist's sister showed up. Lulu was excited because she could find her brother, she called him. Her sister's appearance surprised the other girls. Yao Yao turned her head and looked at Lulu. The Tang girl looked on with joy and surprise as Lulu approached them. The main character's girlfriend looked at Lulu with excitement and wariness. It was her brother who was most frightened by her sister's sudden appearance. He didn't even have the strength to scream. Bai Chao felt as if the life was completely leaving him. He felt exhausted. The protagonist began to fall, not being able to stay on his feet. He held onto his girlfriend. Together with the guy in the water fell also all his girlfriends. They were in the depths. Bai Chao felt very clearly to himself that it looked like he had come to a complete end. The main character was sitting in his room at home. He was remembering past events, and it was strange for him. Bai Chao thought deeply to himself and decided that there was definitely something wrong. The boy remembered that day in the hot springs and the moment he had surfaced from the water. The protagonist remembered his sister reaching out to pull him out of the pool. Lulu's sister helped the boy out of the water and took him in her arms with her. Now looking at his sister, the protagonist decided that she had become very sweet and gentle. The boy walked over to Lulu and patted his sister's cheeks and wanted to tell her something. The main character asked if her sister thought she was acting weird. Lulu asked her brother if he was referring to what happened last week. The sister told the guy that she thought he was pathetic, and it turned out to be a good thing he had friends. The main character was surprised. He asked his sister if she was really not angry with him. Lulu replied that she had nothing to be angry about. The brother thought for a moment. He stroked his sister's cheek again. The girl took her brother's hand away from her face and told him time was running out. After that, Lulu kicked him out the door and told him that he had to go to school and she would go with Xiao Yuan. The main character turned around and looked at his sister. He wondered if she was okay. Bai Chao went slowly and leisurely to his studies, and his sister looked after him in silence. After that, Lulu was silent for a long time and looked at her brother for a long time. The protagonist was going to school and remembered that his sister said that she would go with Xiao Yuan's girlfriend. He also remembered that Xiao Yuan's girlfriend used to say that she was going alone now. After that, the guy decided he'd figure out what his sister had in mind later. The guy noticed a beautiful girl sitting on a bench reading a book. The girl glanced to the side and noticed a guy approaching her. The protagonist and the girl looked at each other for a long time. He stood still. The girl got to her feet, smiled at the main character, and called his name. The guy looked at the girl with interest and wanted to ask her something. Bai greeted his girlfriend with surprise. After that, they decided to go for a walk. A guy asked the girl why she was so dressed up. The girlfriend replied that she was dressed in a national costume because she was asked to pose by the guys from the club. The protagonist told his girlfriend cheerfully that he mistook her for Yukino at first. The guy wanted to say something else, but suddenly the girl stopped and approached him. The girlfriend smiled and looked at the guy and asked if she looked so much like a celebrity. The protagonist was silent. He looked at his girlfriend with great attention and interest. Bai tried to tell the girl some excuses. She didn't seem interested. The girl turned around and started to walk away. She calmly told the guy she was only joking. The girlfriend turned around and asked the protagonist if they were a real couple. The guy wondered. Bai was walking down the street with his girlfriend. He was looking at the map intently. The main character looked at his smartphone and said that the nearest store would literally be across the street. Suddenly, the girlfriend grabbed the guy's clothes. He got excited. The girl yelled excitedly to the guy that a car was coming at him. The main character almost fell down and was supported by a girl in time. The girlfriend straddled the guy. He felt very constricted. The protagonist ended up being up close and personal with his girlfriend. The girl bounced to the side and told the guy that the traffic light was red. Bai mumbled an apology. The guy felt very uncomfortable. He stood at a distance from the girl for a long time. The protagonist and his girlfriend went in to make copies. The salesman quoted a price. The guy behind the counter explained to the girl that the price is high because they don't make much money. The guy then explained to the customer that they were very busy and therefore couldn't give a discount. The salesman told the girl that if he lowered the price, he wouldn't even be able to cover the cost of materials. The customer disappointedly took off her glasses and said that this was not the price she had hoped for. Then already the girl turned around and said goodbye to the store clerk. After that, the girl went outside and sat under a tree next to the guy. The disappointed girl covered herself with a book to keep the sun from shining in her face. After a brief pause, Bai Chao asked his girlfriend if the price had changed. The protagonist told the girl that he wanted to try it himself. She replied that it was unlikely to work. The girl remembered that the seller had a ring like the previous owner. The protagonist hesitated. After a brief pause, he told the girl that she had never seen him in action. Bai Chao then straightened his hair and prepared to go to the store. The protagonist walked into the store and immediately greeted the clerk from the doorstep. The guy asked what the price would be if he ordered 120 sheets with double-sided printing. The manager replied that for 120 sheets, the price will be 2,160, he clarified when the order is needed. The salesman said that they were under a lot of pressure right now, so the price was final. Bai decided to himself that he wouldn't fall for such a trap from the manager. Bai told the salesman that he was overreacting a lot. He added that the paper was not of high quality, and the university prices were a third lower. The guy offered the manager to do the whole thing for him for 95% of the university price. For that, he promised to take 30 more copies. The manager decides to explain to the protagonist why he can't lower the price. Bai promised the guy that he would go to him every month and order 150 copies. The protagonist starts telling the guy that he's offering him a long partnership. Suddenly, a girl stopped by the store and wanted to see how the guy was doing. A girlfriend heard that the protagonist is offering to order 150 copies each month. The girl was very surprised at how resourceful the guy was. Just then, someone suddenly called out a girl named Ning from behind and asked what she was looking at. Girl Ning was standing in a store and her girlfriend came up behind her. After that, Ning decided to make a request to her girlfriend. The girlfriend was rubbing Ning's face. The girl said she was happy to see her friend and asked her to let her go. The girlfriend cheerfully shouted to the girl that they hadn't seen each other for a whole week and she missed her. The main character was standing next to her. Suddenly, a girl came up behind the guy and told him not to worry. The girl explained that Xiao Chun always behaves like this. She recognizes people by touch. The boy was approached by Xiao Kui. She was a graduate student in the Oriental Art Department. Xiao Kui started telling the guy an analogy of how dogs sniff each other. After that, Xiao Kui told the protagonist to get used to Xiao Chun's behavior. Xiao Chun herself was a former member of the literary club. Xiao Chun explained to the guy that she was once even close to the girl Ning. At this time, Xiao Chun noticed the protagonist. The protagonist noticed Xiao Chun's girlfriend happily running towards him. Xiao Chun happily greeted the protagonist. She ran to hug him. Suddenly, Xiao Chun stopped as if someone had grabbed her. She didn't immediately realize what had happened. Girl Ning grabbed Xiao Chun's belt from behind and wanted to say something to her. Ning sternly told Xiao Chun to behave herself in the exhibition hall. Xiao Chun said they are all friends here. She asked Ning if she didn't like touching other people. Ning reminded her that they were at an art exhibition. At this time, Xiao Kun's girlfriend came up from behind and called out to the protagonist. Xiao Kun motioned for the guy to step aside and talk in private. Bai was a little surprised. Xiao Kun sat down and told the guy that he couldn't even believe that Ning had asked him for help. This kind of thing is rare. After that, Xiao Kun asked the guy what he thought of girl Ning. The protagonist thought about it and realized that he doesn't even know how to answer such a question. He and the girl are still unfamiliar. The guy thought to himself that he was very comfortable around Nin. She may be cold, but in reality she is very clear. The protagonist decides that Nin is his fake girlfriend, but not really. After that, the protagonist decided exactly what he would say about the girl for Xiao Kui. Bai said very confidently that Ning's girlfriend is a wonderful person. After that, the main character decided to tell who his girlfriend looked like. Bai said dreamily that Ning looked very much like a fairy at this time. He imagined what she looked like in her national dress. Xiao Kun said that Ning girl hardly smiles and it's just her mask. Xiao Kun told the guy that things would become clearer to him when he got closer to the Ning girl. Xiao Kun then stroked the guy's head and said that he was a big cutie. The protagonist distractedly said that he came here with a girl on literary club business. Xiao Kun put her hand on the guy's head and said that she trusted him completely. Girl Ning asked the protagonist what's up with his girlfriend Yao Yao. The guy replied that he might need her help. The protagonist remembered that he might need help, just as he did during that incident in the pool. Bai Qiao reminded his girlfriend that she had helped him a lot during that incident. Ning was silent. After a long pause, Ning asked the protagonist to tell her something. A girl was walking next to a guy and asked him what it was like to love. Nin clarified with interest to her friend what such a concept of feelings even meant. The guy hesitated. He didn't know how to explain to the girl what feelings meant. Bai decided that at first the question seemed strange to him, but it made sense. He realized that the girl was really interested. The guy said judiciously that feelings are called empathy, which is the empathy that arises in the heart when a person interacts with something. Ning asked the guy if feelings can only appear on the surface. Bai replied that it wasn't quite like that. Ning's girlfriend thought very hard. She was affected by the words from the guy. The girl wanted to say something back to the guy, but she couldn't find the right words. Ning silently stared at the protagonist with a piercing and meaningful gaze. The girlfriend held the guy's hand and they both looked at each other and were silent. The girl felt as if a volcano of feelings had erupted inside her. Nin wondered if she should tell her boyfriend how she felt right now. The protagonist was also silently looking at the girl. He was waiting for her to start talking first. Nin was still smiling. She had so much she wanted to say to her friend. The girl only told the protagonist to forgive her. Ning explained to the guy that he helped her, but they were only pretending to be a couple. Bai felt annoyed. After that, the protagonist along with his girlfriend Ning decided to take a walk down the street. The guy went to the ATM and withdrew money. He asked the girl what she was going to do in the evening. Ning told the guy that she would help the Chinese Culture Club first. A girl sat nearby and watched the protagonist. Bai said goodbye to his girlfriend, and they parted ways. The girl looked at Ning and realized it was her. After that, the girl picked up her phone and decided to call to tell that she saw the main character. A few hours later, the main character was sitting at his house at the time his phone rang. Bai Chao was sitting at his couch and resting. He decided to pick up the phone. The interlocutor told the guy that she had a very important case and needed his help. Girl Ning stood in the park with photographers bustling around her. Ning was preoccupied with something she was thinking about. The photographers were telling her how to get it right. Not far away from around the corner looked a girl. She was watching very closely what Ning was doing. The girl held her cell phone at the ready. She was ready to call any moment.